We are about to have a long discussion on this Carmelo Anthony case. Only thing I'm going to say, leave your feelings at the MF and door. I'm not going to care about how you feel. The facts are the facts. It is what it is. We're going to talk about what went down and what should went down. End of discussion. Let's go.
The Isaiah Factor Uncensored starts now. Alright, Karmelo broke down. He was shaking. And as a mother of black belts, that is what I know I learned today is I have to go tell my 21-year-old son. I have to continue to tell my son that was with me and witnessed it. You do not have rights to self-defense. Your life does not matter in 2026. And welcome to The Factor Uncensored. An intense, emotional, and highly polarized trial has finally come to an end. In a Texas courtroom, 19-year-old Karmelo Anthony is headed to prison for 35 years today. A jury found him guilty of murder in the fatal 2025 track meet stabbing of 17-year-old Austin Metcalf. While supporters outside the courthouse processed the heavy sentence, the legal reality inside the courtroom was clear. The jury completely rejected the defense's self-defense claim. Tonight, we're jumping straight into a full legal breakdown on the strategies that decided this case. And we invite you to share your thoughts as well by texting 713-581-9914. Joining us now to talk about the trial and what happened there is attorney and former prosecutor, current defense attorney, Bayoji Akingbo. Glad to have you here on The Factor Uncensored. Surprise? Surprise at all today?
I'm not surprised by the verdict. I'm a little bit disappointed by the punishment, by the sentencing. And the reason why I say I'm not surprised by the verdict is when you consider self-defense as it's applied in Texas has to be proportional. You have to respond within a reasonable amount of force to the force that has been applied towards you, right? And so we all know the old adage, you don't bring a gun to a fist fight. Similarly, you don't bring any dangerous weapon to a fist fight. And so the defense on the onset had a very difficult job of proving self-defense against a teenager who was unarmed.
All right, let's take a look. Guilty of murder. No surprise there, though, right? You're saying the sentencing to 30...
It should have been pled down to manslaughter, but the fact that the prosecutor purposely did not put manslaughter on the table is a problem.
5 years is what you're concerned about. Why?
35 years is bullshit.
Yeah, it's a little shocking, and this is where, when I mentioned previously, you would prefer to have a more diverse jury panel, right? Reports indicated that there were no black jurors on this jury, and I think that's relevant because when you're considering punishment, you want to appeal to empathy of the defendant, to try to get into the mind of the defendant and understand where they're coming from.
And remember, the black jurors was struck by the prosecution. Let's not forget that.
Some mitigating information to where you want to lower sentencing. And when you have a murder case, after you're convicted of murder, one thing you can do as a defense attorney is have the jury consider whether or not he acted under the sudden heat of passion. In other words, was Mr. Anthony provoked to such an amount of rage and resentment that it would cause him to have done this? And so if you are able to prove that he acted under a sudden heat of passion, it changes the punishment range from 5 years to life to 2 to 20.
Now, would you say that was a misstep done by the defense, or the jury just didn't want to hear that? So, from your perspective and what you know about this trial, was that presented?
I think you can say a little bit of both. The jury obviously rejected that he did not act under the sudden heat of passion. One thing that was a little shocking to me about the defense's strategy is that during the punishment phase of trial, when the jury is considering how to sentence, they only heard from one witness, and that was his mother. And I think that's where they may have dropped the ball. It would have been nice to hear from not just his mother, but from other friends and family to humanize him. And when considering whether or not he acted under the sudden heat of passion, perhaps an expert like a child psychologist who can talk about how the frontal part of the brain is not developed, how a 17-year-old is prone to making very foolish decisions at that age, and how he could have been enraged by, being asked to leave a place where he felt he belonged, that he could have been enraged by being pushed or shoved by Mr. Metcalf, that these are things to consider when deciding whether or not sudden heat of passion applies. But the jury did not hear that type of testimony.
Now, I didn't get a chance to see it, but I heard from my photographers here, they had it, because I hate looking at horrible videos. But there was a video that was shown. But there was a video that was shown.
Yes.
Would that have pushed the jurors over the edge? And for those, you had a chance to actually see the video. You explain what's on that video.
So the video actually is a surveillance footage. My understanding was it was a very grainy surveillance footage, like those gas station
that's what they
videos.
said.
So not anything
There
where you
was
could
grainy
distinctly
as
see
hell.
faces, but enough to understand what was happening. From my understanding, the jury became very emotional from the first day of testimony, not just from hearing the video, but listening to witnesses, friends of Mr. Metcalf that were speaking about what they observed. His brother speaking about how he lifted up they saw the hole in his chest, how he was gasping for air. Apparently, when they were hearing that testimony from these eyewitnesses, there were some jurors that were even fighting back tears. And I do think, that's something that does play a role in the state's case of appealing to the pathos, the emotional aspect of these jurors to get them to come to a verdict.
But I asked you about the video. What's in that video?
So the video shows the actual murder. It shows the stabbing.
And what do you see?
What you see is people gathering under the tent, right? Because it's like an aerial view. People gathering under the tent. That there appears to be some commotion, and then you see people, like a mass of teenagers and people running out of the tent after the actual murder itself. You don't get to actually see with the naked eye the actual murder itself, but you can assume what's going on under that tent.
Now, prosecutors argued Anthony met, shove with deadly force.
Yes, and this kind of goes back to what I was saying about you have to have some degree of proportionality when it comes to self-defense. So someone shoves you. The question that is posed is that shove enough to meet with deadly force of a knife? The defense made an attempt, and what they're saying is, look, one, Mr. Metcalf was bigger. I think there was testimony that he was perhaps 50 pounds bigger. Two, that it wasn't just Mr. Metcalf. They were trying through cross-examination to say that Mr. Metcalf also had some other friends around him. And so from the perspective of Mr. Anthony, he's actually defending himself from a group. And three, what prosecutors are trying to do is say, you know what? It's not always going to be force with force, but it also says attempted use of force. In other words, Mr. Karmelo Anthony, in that moment, was protecting himself of what he thought was about to come. He wasn't waiting for it. With that shove, perhaps he was thinking, it's going to get worse than this, and I need to protect myself against attempted use of force.
And really quick, wrap 5 and 6 up in one in the last 20 seconds we have here.
Yeah, so he has to serve half of his time before he's eligible for parole. So he was charged, he was sentenced with 35 years. So 17 and a half of those years is how much he has to serve before he is eligible for parole. So he's 19. You do the math, 19 plus 7, he's eligible for parole at the age of 36. All right.
All right, OJ. Don't go anywhere. We'll have more reaction after the break.
Okay.
You're watching The Factor Uncensored. Stay with us. And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. While the legal battle inside the courtroom is over, the emotional divide outside is only growing. The Karmelo Anthony verdict has sparked a deeply polarizing reaction, leaving a community heavily split over the 35-year sentence. The Collin County District Attorney stood with Austin Metcalf's family today, saying justice was served.
This verdict sends a clear message. Violence like this won't be tolerated in our Collin County community, and we remain committed to protecting our schools and
Every time I look at this guy, the only thing I think of is this here. White power, white power, white power, white power, white power. Yeah, the good old boy system is alive and well in the state of Texas.
with victims and their families.
Now, there's been a lot of reaction to the verdict and sentencing, and we want to hear your thoughts. Text your viewpoints to the number you see there on your screen, 713-581-9914. Let's turn it over to our guest now, creative entrepreneur Jasmine Terry and crime victim advocate April Aguirre. Glad to have you both here. So, Jasmine, your thoughts about the verdict today?
I think they're making an example of him. We just witnessed.
They did make an example out of him. The fuck you mean?
How can you tell someone if you're being harmed how to defend yourself? That's
Exactly.
insane.
That's
I think the
dumb
state
as
of America,
hell.
it's a problem. Everything, I think that the strategy that the media has displayed this case played a big role in it. I think the way that the GoFundMe's, I think all of that played into the decision making of this case. And it's ridiculous, honestly. I think that if you put your hands on someone, you can't tell someone if they are not feeling how to basically defend yourself.
Exactly.
How do you do that? And then
Exactly.
35 years and make it a prime example. And I think everything that's going on right now in America explains exactly that.
So, would you say, though, if someone, like a kid, gets into a fight, young teenagers, murder is the answer? Pulling out a knife?
So, I mean, the question is always why. Why does he feel like he needed to have a knife?
Yeah,
right?
why?
And so you look at, I'm not an attorney, but you look at the history of the victim, right? What has happened? What is the story? What is behind this? What has gone on in order to justify why? Not just to justify, but why did he have to have a knife? So.
And I got to pause this for a second. Let me say this loud and MF and clear. Austin Metcalf is no victim. The victim is Karmelo Anthony. And if y'all don't like it, get the fuck out of my damn chat.
All of that needs to play a role into it. I don't think that it's a problem when you harm someone.
All right, April, let's hear from you. Your thoughts? Does the history of these two, if there is a history, play a role in what the jury should decide once one person is dead?
So one statute that's very popular in the law, in the legal world, is Lady Justice. And Lady Justice is blind. She is blindfolded because there shouldn't be any bias in regards to race, religion, monetary situations. But I will say that Karmelo had the opportunity to walk away. He did. He wasn't being held there. If anybody held that young man, he had every opportunity to defend himself, and he would have been justified. But unfortunately, the claim of self-defense here just doesn't stand, especially when he said, touch me and see what happens. I just think that there's a huge problem with our community with violence.
Ma'am, Rosita, whatever the fuck your name is, go ahead, bitch.
Our young people are very violent. We have had over a dozen shootings here in the last week here in Houston involving young people. And I just hate to see young people, regardless of race, either go to prison or go to the casket. Another thing to the protesters, if Karmelo had been stabbed under the same circumstances, would you be protesting? Would you be defending Austin? Absolutely not. You have a young man that was visiting another high school that pulled out a knife. Because they told him to leave a tent.
One instance you say that it's not about race. You said that doesn't play a role in it, and then you just double back and said, the role was reversed, what would be
because
different?
I want to make the argument that if the roles were reversed, would there be protests?
So what is that
if
based on?
If Karmelo had been stabbed by Austin, would we be defending Austin? I just don't think that race should be an issue here. We have two young people, one stabbed for the protesters.
Wait a minute, pause.
Austin had stabbed Karmelo.
I gotta pause this. Some of y'all that want to defend the white boy made it about race. And that's how it became about race. Because Fox News and News Nation wanted it to be about race. So shut the fuck up and miss me with your fuck shit.
If Austin had stabbed Karmelo, he's a murderer. I don't care that he's white or if he was Hispanic or what his Indian, Asian, alien, whatever he is.
Everyone looks over the fact about a Black American issue and what happens in America. And so I'll say this, instead of double back and going to focus on this in this time, I'm going to focus on the fact is this: Black people, we are at war.
You're not at war.
Yeah, we are at war, you dumb bitch.
You don't want to be this delusional on the side of me and tell me that we are not at war.
My nieces and nephews are.
We're at war against systematic racism. What the fuck are you talking about? Dumbasses.
African American or successful young people and have never fought in
One at a
school.
time, ladies.
Okay,
April,
success
give her 1
has
second.
nothing to do with what's going on and as a culture. So if you do have that, and you are an attorney, you are aware of history, you are aware of what's going on, right? And if you can sit here and to tell me that this black child that is 17 years old at the time, who was pushed, he was touched, he was harmed, right? And everyone's saying that you're just a push. There's also witness that says that he was jumped. Right? He's defending himself. Who are you to tell someone how to defend themselves in a moment where he could, if he would have died, like you said, will people be protesting out there?
If the video evidence showed that he had been jumped, he was completely entitled to a self-defense claim. Unfortunately, the video evidence does
So
not
the fact that
display
someone
that.
puts their hands on someone, you
So
touch
every day,
Answer the question, Rosita. Answer the fucking question. Shit.
here in
So wait,
HISD,
so if you touch someone,
I give you some time. Let me just
Yes.
look here for a second.
No
Every day
problem.
here in HISD, we have kids fight each other in schools. Every single day, teachers split up children that fight each other. It would be inappropriate to say it's okay to pull out a knife and stab somebody if somebody pushes you. Now, if you're being jumped and there's video evidence of that, then you are justified.
We're not saying that it's right. We're saying is it justified? Lord.
But that the video evidence just does not show that.
Okay. So what is the law in Texas regarding self-defense? What is the law regarding to protect yourself in Texas regarding self-defense?
Imminent danger.
Okay.
Is a push.
So
is
if
a
this
push
person
legal?
in the moment feels that he is in danger,
Well, that's a problem. It's
So
feels.
it's a push. Okay, so not feel. You're absolutely right. So it's not feel. He was physically harmed. A push. This is a guy that's 50, 60 pounds over. Now, let me say this. I am not justifying the fact that this guy had a knife that he brought. This kid brought a knife. He
Which
had a
he
knife.
shouldn't have weapons
So
in
wait a
school.
minute. So this is a knife. First of all, he didn't do anything wrong
Shut up, Rosita.
by sitting under a tent. There's no law that says this child can tell him to get up and move.
Agreed.
Right? To move. So to do that, back to the point, to be able to sit here and to bring a knife, I don't think it's okay. I do not think that it's the fact that this child had a knife, but I do want to know why. Why did he feel like he needed to have a knife, right? So in the moment of all of this, I think it's a point where you cannot tell me that as a black man, and I'm speaking in black, so everyone wants to, when it comes to a black issue, everyone wants to look past the fact of our issues and what goes on in America. And the reality is this, he felt like he needed to defend himself. He did. And so we're here, and this is the moment, and everyone looks over about being black, and I don't think so. I think in this moment, if it had been reversed, it would be a completely different
All right,
situation.
April, we're going to come back and let you wrap up in just a second. Stay with us here on The Factor Uncensored.
You hungry? Starving. Let's hit the taco shop. Sweet, let's roll. Actually, I can't. I'm broke. My account literally has $1.40.
Just a second. Stay with us here on The Factor Uncensored. And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. We are still talking about the Karmelo Anthony case where there was a loss. And ladies, we're going to let you wrap up here on The Factor Uncensored. So, April, you begin.
As a crime victim advocate, it is a tragedy every single day here in Houston, Texas. We don't have to look to the other parts of Texas to see this type of teen violence. And unfortunately, these two teenagers didn't know each other. They didn't know each other, and over such a small argument, there was a loss of life on both ends because now Karmelo has to go to prison, and Austin has been in the grave since April. It's just very sad to see, but overall, we have a problem nationally where we are losing children to prison and children to caskets because of this type of violence.
All right. Jasmine, close us out.
So I do want to also agree with her. Violence is not necessary, regarding what's happening to the young kids being able to defend themselves. I'm not saying that you should bring a knife and be prepared to protect yourself. There's other ways. We have to be able to get into these schools and be able to teach children self-defense in ways, or relatively go and tell an adult.
It's not
right? But I do want to land with the fact that
it's not self-defense that we need to teach. We need to teach self-defense and conflict resolution. That's what we need to teach. Keep going.
That in America right now, this was a public lynching to me of a teenager of 35 years. I think it's not the fact he's wrong for stabbing someone and someone lost their life. That's one thing. 35 years is definitely excessive.
And April.
And I'll just close with, unfortunately, Austin got a life death sentence in that moment. He got a death sentence. He's in the casket. He will never be able to talk to his family. And Karmelo still has more rights than Austin in this prison system because he's still living.
All right, we want to thank you both, and of course, this is a conversation that April and I have agreed to continue to next week. We're going to bring some families in of young people who have been impacted and lost lives and the danger that they face.
I'm gonna go to another clip from Law and Crime Network. Let's get it.
It took jurors less than 3 hours to decide the fate of the Texas track athlete accused of turning a high school competition into a deadly crime scene. Their verdict? Karmelo Anthony is guilty of murdering Austin Metcalf. Now Anthony knows exactly how many years he'll spend behind bars. And the moment the verdict was read, sparked powerful emotions and sobs inside the courtroom. We're on the case presented by Law and Crime. I'm Chris Stewart. Started, I need to tell you about this app, Upside. It gets you cash back on everyday purchases like gas, groceries, and takeout. All you have to do is download Upside for free, claim an offer at one of their 100,000 plus locations, and pay like you normally would with your card. After that, you verify the purchase and you get money back. I use it when I get gas, or maybe I'm doing takeout one night. I search for offers on Upside, then after I spend, money shows up in my app, and I just transfer it straight to my bank. Upside's frequent users earn an average of $254 back a year. So to start getting your cash back, click the link in the description or scan the QR code on your screen and use promo code OTC to get an extra 25 cents bonus on every gallon on your first tank of gas. After Karmelo Anthony was found guilty of murder, the judge moved directly into the penalty phase. Carmelo's mom took the stand asking the court for mercy.
Meaning he rushed the case through like he wanted to from the beginning.
Mom took the stand asking the court for mercy on her son. In Texas, when it comes to murder, there is a wide range of how long someone's prison sentence could be. It is between 5 and 99 years. Today, jurors not only decided that Anthony was guilty of murder, but they also determined his sentence, 35 years in prison. He's now 19. He'll be in his mid-50s when he gets out. It was an intense day in court. Cody Thomas was there throughout the entire trial, including a very, very emotional day today. Joins us now to break this down. You know, Cody, you think of just, I think there were like two major emotional moments, it seems, today, because you have the verdict where the jury finds Karmelo Anthony guilty of murder, but then you also have, after a period of time, more deliberations, and then here comes the jury deciding his sentence of 35 years. Let's start there. Like, just take us in that moment when the jury comes back with that being the sentence for Karmelo Anthony.
Yeah, Chris, obviously so. There was emotion running rampant throughout that courtroom on both sides. You know, of course, the media is sitting right behind the Metcalf family, so we saw all of those tears. You know, they feel like justice has been served for Austin Metcalf here. They feel vindicated. And, of course, there were some celebratory gestures by the Metcalf friends that were in there. They looked like former teammates, five, younger, bigger guys, and a couple of girls that were in there that were sitting right behind the family. When that happened, the family turned around and gave all these kids a hug, kisses on the cheek, and the tears just rolling between Jeff Metcalf and Megan Metcalf, the two parents there, and what I assume to be aunts, uncles, or other family friends that were there as well. Now, of course, on the other side as well, Chris, Karmelo Anthony's family, tears, but of a different token, right? You know, total opposite. Their son, their child, is going to prison for a very long time here. He's only 19 years old, 35 years. You're not looking at getting out until 54, right? Of course, there's a parole opportunity halfway through that, 17 and a half years, but that's essentially his entire life right now. So I'm sure the emotional gravity on them that they're going to be seeing their loved one who is now a convicted murderer through plexiglass for the next however long. So just an emotional roller coaster on both sides, a whirlwind in that courtroom, of course, Chris.
Yeah, and you think of, how stoic this family was, how Karmelo was throughout the entire trial, even through the heaviest pieces of testimony that we talked about that brought even jurors to tears, and then you just have this release in finding that you have been found guilty of murder. And then, I mean, you think at minimum, your entire life, 17 years, you are going to spend in a Texas state prison. Before we get to some of the closing arguments, which does feel like it happened days ago, it was a very busy day, there was this, part of the sentencing portion related to sudden passion and whether that is something that comes into play here. And that would have changed the potential for how many years Carmelo Anthony was going to get as a sentence. Just walk us through that part of it and how it factored into what played out in the courtroom.
Right, Chris. So this terminology, sudden passion, we hadn't heard that throughout this entire trial until today in those arguments before the jury went back there to deliberate on the sentencing. Pretty much what the defense is arguing is that this whole thing, kind of like crimes of passion that we covered here on Crime and Court TV, where these sorts of instances kind of happen in the moment. Something's going on, heat of the moment, you make a decision. It is a clear mistake. There's no arguing that it's a mistake by the defense, but the sentencing for that would have only carried 2 to 20 years versus what he was ultimately convicted of in murder and for 5 to 99 years, and of course ultimately got the 35 years. But they brought up this sudden passion thing to try to argue that this was, pretty much not premeditated. He did not go under that tent with the intention to stab anyone. This just all happened all of a sudden. But then, of course, with the prosecution reserving the right to respond, they came back and rebutted, pretty much saying, let me tell you why this isn't a sudden passion type of case here, type of crime here. Because sudden passion, and he brought the definition up on the screen there, sudden passion involves the decedent or the victim to be the provocateur, the one who's instigating the act here. And the prosecution saying, by all of our testimony, it was Karmelo Anthony was the one provoking the incident. So you can't claim sudden passion if the offender was the one provoking the incident. So that's where the defense came back, or the prosecution came back. So it was a real clash on this sudden passion thing, which ultimately the jury did not side with, convicting him of that murder, now facing 35 years behind bars.
And you think of the sudden passion part of it, to argue that Austin Metcalf was the one who provoked this incident. No matter for people watching this who may have an opinion and they agree or disagree with the verdict, like by the time we were talking about sudden passion, like the guilty verdict on murder had already come in. And so like that was off the table. The jury had already we're past that point, it seems. I want to go to the closing arguments today before we get to just that moment. I'm sure it's just another major emotional moment when Carmelo Anthony is found guilty of murder. What did you make of the defense today? And when it came to the closing arguments before the guilty verdict today, what were kind of the bullet points of what they said in their final opportunity to address the jury?
So they started off, Chris, by pretty much saying, we hadn't heard this before earlier in the trial, saying Austin Metcalf had no authority to remove Carmelo Anthony from that tent. That he had all the right to say, get off from under the tent, but he had no authority to physically move him, to make him move. He should have went and got a coach or something. That's what they were pretty much saying. So that was the initial highlight, and that was the whole narrative pretty much of their closing argument. And then, Chris, the biggest highlight to me towards the end, as they're trying to make headway with their closing argument here, was that we've heard about the hand in the bag situation with the phrasing, touch me and see what happens. What the defense attorney phrased or demonstrated, he was saying that he was giving the jury a scenario, and he was saying that if I have my hand in my bag and I tell you I have something in it, something potentially harmful, and I'm telling you to not touch me, you call my bluff saying I don't have anything in it, and then you touch me, and then I pull the thing out and use it, that was a warning and not provocation. So that's how they pretty much ended their closing argument, to which the prosecution got up to their rebuttal and said, do not let the defense turn a threat into a warning. That was the opening line. Do not let them turn a threat
a clear warning, dumbass.
Distinct reasons as to why this wasn't a self-defense case. One of them was, provoking. You can't claim self-defense by, provoking a situation, and then when, the opposing party retaliates, and then you do something bad, you can't claim self-defense with that. They talked about the immediate necessity for the use of force, and how immediate was it? Were you really fearing for your life? Was there an opportunity to run? They talked about force disparity, and the prosecutor said that you could meet force with force, i.e. a shove with a shove. You can meet deadly force with deadly force, but you cannot meet normal force with lethal force. Pretty much showing one person had an edge up because they had self-defense, Chris, and implored that, that the jury find Karmelo Anthony guilty, which now we know ultimately they did.
Yeah, and there were some strong words from the prosecution in those closing arguments. Like I have here that just, him bluntly saying, the prosecutor, you don't get to meet a shove with a stab, especially if you provoke the shove. And I feel like that was kind of, and might be saying something obvious, like really at the heart of this trial, because, a lot that the defense talked about was kind of pushing back on the tent culture part of it with the prosecution, where on the state side of it, it was, well, if you're a member of the opposing team, you don't go under a tent. And then the defense kind of pushed back on that, saying like, well, that wasn't really an unwritten rule that everybody knew. But then it's like you get to the point where they start having this altercation, and based off Texas law, when it comes to self-defense, like if you're the one with the weapon, it is really hard to argue that you were acting in self-defense. And we saw that play out with just how quickly the jury reached this guilty verdict. I mean, 4 days of testimony, and I think it was, less than 3 hours?
Just under 3 hours,
Take me through that part of it where, I know a lot of these, and you've covered big trials for Court TV, like where you're waiting days for a verdict. And this one came fast.
And I mean, that's a testament to this whole trial, though, Chris. I mean, we've talked throughout this entire trial. 4 days of testimony, pedal to the metal, including a Saturday session, 9 hours a day, 40-minute lunch break, 10-minute afternoon break. I mean, we were in there. The jury working hard, media working hard, the families taking in all this, gruesome information in such a compacted time period, right? And the prosecution called their 21 witnesses. They rested on Saturday. The defense started immediately and got 3 witnesses in before the end of the day. We get back on Monday, yesterday, and then they call 3 witnesses. We go to lunch, and then there's this elongated delay to which we have no information about what's going on. We're thinking, are they, brokering a last-minute plea deal? Are they preparing him to testify? We get back in there, and it's just the defense is rested. And it was kind of abrupt. There was kind of, some head turning, like, okay, right. And then the day ended, and then the state rested with no rebuttal. So all of that, Chris, just kind of a testament to how fast everything's going. Now, deliberations today, just under 3 hours. Deliberations before the sentencing, what the actual sentence was going to be after the conviction, just under 3 hours. They were getting this all done today, and we've been here all day. It's going on, it's past 8 o'clock Central Time here. So this was something that the judge was not really trying to delay in any capacity. I guess it felt like he wanted to just put a bow on it and move on to allow this community to heal on both sides of the spectrum.
Yeah, I mean, and again, we've seen, murder cases, murder trials really get dragged out for a period of time. This was not one of them. I know we talked about like the sentencing part of it, and kind of that moment when it's announced that Karmelo Anthony is going to spend, potentially 35 years in prison. Prior to that, you just think of him entering today, and for this family, I'm sure they had hope that he was going to be found not guilty. Everybody has opinions on how this trial went and how realistic that would have possibly been, but manslaughter was also on the table, and that's something that maybe gave them hope as well. Take us into the moment you get called back into the courtroom for the verdict on whether or not he was guilty of murder, and just what you remember about that.
Yeah, I mean, it was you could feel that there's this big moment coming, which, rightfully so it was. There's imminence to it, right? And so we're all sitting in there, the media in the back row, the families come in. We saw Hunter Metcalf for the first time today in the courtroom. We know he did not testify. A lot of people were expecting that to maybe be, the final shebang in the prosecution's case. Let's hear from the decedent's twin brother. But he showed up in the courtroom today for the first time. He looked, kind of flushed. He was there. He was with his mom and dad, looking very serious. The Anthony family came in, sat down. Of course, Karmelo's parents had their arms around each other, preparing to hear, the fate of their child. And so, of course, the defendant stands up, and then guilty of murder. A lot of people, a lot of speculation online saw, an out with the manslaughter. Maybe he acted recklessly. Of course, we have a dead child over here, but maybe there wasn't enough premeditation. Maybe it was something in the moment, just, a horrible mistake. It happened to be the biggest mistake on earth, but maybe it was that. But this jury decided that, no, there was intentionality. That's something that the prosecution harped on, intentionality by another human to take another human's life or cause bodily harm that will cause death. That's what the jury ultimately decided on. And, of course, you just heard like an emotional drop on the Anthony side, but then kind of like a bit of release or a relief on the Metcalf side. So it was just that dichotomy of emotion in the courtroom, and then you saw Carmelo Anthony kind of drop his head, just seemingly in disbelief. And I'll walk you through it, Chris. So you get the whole, you've been reprimanded by the state, you're now in custody of the state. We know he's been out on bond this entire time for a year and some change. So he walks out, and then we immediately start to go into the penalty phase. And so he was out for a few minutes, and they walk him back in. And the way he was walking out, Chris, his back is to me when he's walking out. And his parents are right there to his right. I can't really see his face walking out. When he comes back in, Chris, you can clearly see that he'd been crying, and he had this just, bewildered facial expression. And, his eyes are really wide, and his jaw was just, hanging open. And it's almost like, it's real now, which of course has been real this whole time. But when you're out on bond, house arrest may not seem as real as I'm not going to be able to go back and give my mother a hug anymore. Things like that. So I'm sure all of that weight, the gravity of what's really settling in, like this has happened. And when you're out on bond, leading up to the trial, you still have the hope. There's still the case that's been put on, but I'm sure the hope, of course, was still there. And now, all hope is gone. And now he has to sit with that as an adult and deal with, the consequences of his actions as decided by this jury. But it was just a real, again, you could cut the tension with the butter knife inside the courtroom, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, you just think of, and I know, like, just from some of the notes, like, his defense attorney had his arm around him, and I'm sure that they've talked extensively about their strategy going into this trial, and you have this hope that you're, that they came into this hoping that the way that they told their story would be a way that the jury would see it. But I mean, just for how quickly this jury looked and clearly, and we talked, I mean, it seems that the prosecution came in incredibly prepared for this trial.
Yeah.
They were ready on cross-examination. They had exhibits ready to go. Even in their responses to the closing arguments today, it just seemed like they had a lot ready to go. And you saw that with roughly 3 hours for them to reach this, the jury to reach this guilty verdict. And part of it too, because I found it, I wasn't sure whether we were going to do the penalty phase tomorrow, and give everybody a day with that. But I mean, not only did they go into the penalty phase really quickly, they put Carmelo Anthony's mom on the stand, and it felt like within the hour of her son being found guilty of murder, she's there ultimately pleading to the jury to show mercy on him. It just seemed like so fast.
And Chris, I'll tell you, they didn't even give her a moment to breathe. They didn't give her a moment to sit with this. I mean, this is a mother also, right? This is a mother that's losing her son in a different way. And it was minutes. I don't think all the days are running together, all the time's running together now to go in nonstop, full throttle. But I think it was under half an hour. Carmelo wasn't out of the room for very long, and then she was the only witness the defense called to the punishment phase, to the witness stand. And, it was real brief. It was like under 3 minutes. And he pretty much asked for the defense attorney, do you believe that your son regrets what he's done? And she just, I love my baby. I know my son. He's very, very sorry for what went down, and, just really pleading that they show mercy on her son, which, in retrospect, in a sense, they did. I mean, 35 years, that's a long time. That's tough to face at 19 years old, but
Anybody who knows this case know damn well this case is a manslaughter case. I don't give a fuck how y'all feel.
there was an alternative of 99 years where he would never have gotten out. So in a sense, they did apply some leniency, but of course you can understand where staring 35 years down the barrel at 19 years old could be. It's real tough because that's not a short amount of time, right? But to your point though, Chris, she got on that stand within minutes, crying and it just echoing through the speakers in that microphone, just all the emotion possible. Essentially, of a mother losing her son, so it was emotions on both sides. I mean, I can't implore that enough. It was just very, very, very emotional.
No, and I mean, you think too for that family, no matter how you. Whatever you think of the verdict today, whatever you think of Carmelo Anthony, I just think of like that family, had their son. He was going to a track meet middle of the day on a Wednesday, I think it was in April of last year, and then they get a phone call that this had happened. I mean, very different situation than the Metcalf family that also received a horrific phone call. But to just think that they're in this room going through this, and then here she is on the stand, just with the blistering pace that this judge went with. Like, I was surprised that was something where just so quickly, without even really having the time to, I'm sure, process everything, you're on the stand. And just kind of looking at the notes too, because the state did speak to her. These prosecutors that, ultimately they presented a case and found her son guilty of murder. What was that moment like, where you have one of these prosecutors then talking to her as she is emotional on the stand, asking for mercy for her son?
He spoke for, it was like a sentence, maybe two, Chris, maybe a sentence and a half. He just kind of looked at her and said, "You're grieving as a mother would," understanding where that emotion is coming from. And he pretty much just said, "You will still be involved in your son's life." And that's pretty much all he said. And he passed the witness back to the defense, which, in a sense, of course, you say that, what he's trying to get at is that she'll still get to see her son. Because one of the most powerful moments during their closing argument, Chris, the prosecution's, or during the sentencing, before they went back to do the sentencing, when he was considering the punishment, the prosecutors really hammering on, sending a message to the community. Community was a big word they were harping on, holding people accountable in the community to make your community what you want it to be. And he talked about, considering life sentences. And, he had a real bellowing voice. The defense attorney was a little more soft-spoken, but the prosecutor he echoed throughout the courtroom when he was getting emotional, right? And so he was like, when you're considering life sentences, Jeff Metcalf, Megan Metcalf, Hunter Metcalf, all have life sentences, a life sentence of a void in their home and a void in their heart. I thought that was a very powerful, way to express that, because, while we talk about Karmelo Anthony being gone a long time, essentially, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. It's a very long tunnel, but there is a light. But what the prosecution was getting at is that there is no light for the Metcalf family. Austin Metcalf will never come back. No matter how much attempts at healing and whatever else they have to go through, or counseling or consoling, whatever amongst themselves, whatever they have to do to make themselves, better to go on in life, he still will never come back. And that's what the prosecution was harping on here, which to me kind of made it insurmountable. How do you overcome that with a defense strategy, any kind of closing argument, any kind of plea for leniency, right? So again, this is to the point we've been talking about. It seemed like the prosecution was just prepared with every single phrasing, every single cross-examination, every single, direct examination under their case. They came in this, just readily prepared for every possible scenario.
I think of the jurors too, and you can't lose sight of the fact that these are people like all of us, where you get the jury summons for jury duty in the mail, and you're like, oh, I can't believe I have to go do this. And then you end up showing up hoping they're going to send you home, and then eventually you work your way through and you find yourself in that jury box, and then you realize it is going to be for a case that was getting a lot of attention in the Dallas area, and then you yourself not only determining guilt or innocence and kind of handling that weight. And you think of jury selection was Monday last week. When all of this happened, to think 2 weeks ago, nobody knew that they would be in this position. And then here they are also determining the penalty phase of it. Just what did you take away from this jury, kind of looking at them, kind of understanding what they had to go through over the past several days, and then certainly today with their verdict of guilty for Karmelo Anthony, and then you think about having to determine, to have such a wide range too of 5 to 99 years, and to go through a deliberation
why
to figure
that
out exactly
range?
what the right punishment would be.
Yeah, and as I've been speaking on it the past few days, Chris, they've just been, there's emotion at the beginning of the trial, of course, when you're hearing 911 calls, and you're hearing all this emotional testimony and seeing body cam footage of compressions being done in this dying body. Of course, there was emotion at that point. But when all that passed, they were just, real attentive to everything each side had to say, because they had to take all that information in and essentially make what they believed was a fair decision as far as the guilt. And then, to me, what was probably, the harder decision, the penalty, the punishment here. Because, like you said, why 5 to 99? That's a huge scale to choose from. And then to ultimately land on 35, which maybe it's because of his age. Maybe they wanted to give him another chance at life down the road. But, you look at them there, and they came back in, and they just looked, they looked like a jury that had their mind made up. They looked like there was no fluctuation in their decision-making. They looked like they took all the information in that, that was necessary to take in to make these incredibly heavy decisions. That's something that the prosecution and defense were harping on during closing arguments for both, the guilt phase and the penalty phase, was that they understand the task at hand, this tall task for this jury to be here, listen to all this, emotional, testimony, see all these exhibits, look out into the gallery and see the emotion going on, and then then having to be tasked with, dealing with a young man that's sitting over there in that defendant's table. So, they looked like they were, prepared for the task at hand.
Yeah, and I just think too, I mean, there will be people who will criticize the defense attorney, and that's a really tough job, right? I mean, you got to have a stomach to have that line of work, deal with the pressure, and putting everything together. Just what did you take away from his defense in terms of just the body language you saw in that moment where I'm sure you work incredibly hard to put a trial together, it doesn't go your way, and then you're in this situation where, I'm sure there's, in hindsight, would you have done things differently? I don't know. You'll face a ton of criticism. It's just, what did you take away from his defense attorney with just his body language dealing with, from their point of view, a very, very difficult day?
Yeah, I mean, I'd imagine when you take on this case, Chris, the facts of this case are insanely just, they're tough. They're insurmountable facts.
Yeah,
especially
they
when you
are.
have something like Karmelo Anthony on body cam admitting to the stabbing. I mean, we've already got that. That's there. So, when you take on this case, it's just a difficult case in the beginning, right, to try to formulate and strategize. And I can't even imagine what goes into even trying to attempt to defend a case like this. And of course, once the decision came down today, you're hired to try to keep this defendant from behind bars, right? And then you get a sentence like this. I'd imagine there's a feeling of, being unsuccessful. And so he's standing there, he has his arm around Karmelo, he's kind of like leaning with him, leaning into him, giving him, consoling him, I would say. I don't want to say there was a sense of defeat because they put their best foot forward, obviously, with the hand they were dealt. But it was a somber echoing of body language there in the court as, they listened to the prosecution put on their closing argument, when they listened to what the jury came back with both verdicts. Just a real, just taking it in like this. We tried, and this is the result. And he verbally said that he respected the decisions that the jury made because, in this country, we operate on due process. Everyone's due to a fair trial. And he acknowledged that and just had to respect the decision.
Yeah, and, Karmelo Anthony found guilty in the murder of Austin Metcalf, 35 years in Texas State Prison. Cody Thomas with Court TV did an amazing job covering this trial. Cameras were not allowed, audio.
Okay, we're going to go to what Dennis Sperling had to say. Let's get it.
Found guilty of murder. I don't think that boy received a fair trial. In my opinion, that case should not have been tried in Collin County, Texas, right? The defense should have been granted the motion to change venue, right? There was no black jurors. Obviously, all of the witnesses were biased and probably heavily influenced by the kind of sentiment that pervaded that community.
Bro, it ain't just that community. You think, first of all, you're not entitled, well, let me say it like this. You're entitled to a trial by jury, the jury of your peers. You're not entitled to a trial of people who are of your own race. That's not how it works. The jury is selected typically from people who register to vote, people who have driver's licenses, people who pay taxes or some variation of state, local taxes, property taxes in that area. That's generally how it works. That's what you get. And my understanding is that this Collins County is 50% white, 20-something% Asian, which includes East Asian and Central Asian. You got about 14% Hispanic, and the rest is black. That's pretty much, they chose to live out there. That's where they chose to live out and go to school. That's their peer. That's where they chose to live, right? Right? It's not, I guess we could argue he was just passing through, but he wasn't. And what I'm trying to point out to you is, this is the judicial system. Where would you want to send them to South Dallas? Because here's the problem. That jury in South Carolina, with that Rick Child case, what did that jury look like? Was that jury all white? Was that jury all Asian? Rick Child's an Asian man arrested and held in jail who at that time was allegedly had shot a black boy in the back 130 yards away after chasing him. Those clearly weren't his peers, were they? But they found him not guilty. So I'm saying that somebody said, yeah, he needed Rick Child's lawyer. Yeah, you know that same black lawyer that y'all, yeah. Karmelo Anthony needed Rick Child's lawyer. That's who he needed. You know, the same one y'all said sold out, that's who he needed. He needed some lawyers like that. But anyway, yeah, let's keep listening to the brother.
This was a racially charged case, obviously. And in my opinion, this is just terrible news. But even if the verdict would have went the other way, people on the extreme right, especially on the extreme right, was ready to make Metcalf a martyr, right? Because they are hell-bent on starting some kind of race war, some weird shit like that, man. But once again, just within a matter of...
He's already a martyr. Just because the dude went to jail don't mean he's not already a martyr. He's not, he's already a martyr. See what I mean? Basically, they saying, see, there they go again. What did they say? What did Chud the Builder say? There they go again. Chipping out. Isn't that what they say? Here we have one. So this guy didn't even have a criminal record. He was a track student, good student. He still imped out himself. You see? This is what I'm saying. It's always going to be race involved. The great Johnny Cochran, in one of his books, man, he said that race is always an issue. It is. It's something you have to deal with. It's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. All of you all who are looking for a post-racial society, it's not going anywhere. These are the facts on. These are the facts on the ground. You living in a fantasy world if you ever think the United States of America is going to somehow separate itself from racism. Racism is the national pastime. It's not baseball. It's not apple pie. This is what we do here in the USA. This is what you do in a multicultural society with multi-ethnic groups. Racism is part of the national ethos. It was here from the onset. Not going anywhere. Deal with it. Somebody type deal with it in the chat room. Period. But anyway, let's keep it moving. Let's look at the next video. All right.
Running your own business and being a creative is a lot of work. And starting something new can be intimidating. Did you know B&H has free...
All right.
I'm not saying that I'm surprised about anything. Like I said, I just made a post about this earlier. I didn't have much faith in my heart for this young man's case, But at no point in time should everyone ignore what's happening right now in the system. At no point in time should anyone ignore this case. These are high schoolers we're talking about, little kids, young teenagers who honestly, one lost their life and one is losing their freedom as we speak. Just graduated from out of high school. Beautiful, bright future ahead of them, and now he's gone to prison. You get what I'm saying? This is some really fucked up shit for a young man who has no history of even being a harmful young man to me.
Very
You grew up in a beautiful family and things like that, man, and just who can tell you where the fuck to move to? At some point, everyone's gonna have to recognize the system and the way they do shit and how much to keep on getting off of the same shit and go from there with this.
Yeah, there's no geographical solution for an emotional problem. You gotta control yourself. Let me explain something to y'all, man. Let me get in here. I got 3 sons. I got an 18-year-old, a 16-year-old, and a 10-year-old. Conversation that I would, if that was my son and he was in some stuff like that, the conversation I had with my sons behind closed doors and in public would be 2 different things, very distinct. And I want you to hear me because I'm going to tell y'all, I'm going to speak to you like a real daddy. And I love my children with all my heart. There's nothing I won't do for them. And in public. I'm going to be a dedicated father. My son is innocent until proven guilty. I'm going to spend the money that I need to spend to help him put up a proper defense. I'm going to support him in public. I'm going to say he was sitting there minding his business. The other kid that kept his hands off of him, this wouldn't have happened. However, behind closed doors, I'm going to have a whole different kind of conversation with him. I'm going to say, what the hell were you thinking? I'm going to say something like, you killed somebody because they pushed your ass. That's what we doing. Somebody pushed your ass. You ain't been pushed before. Your big dumb ass has killed somebody. Now you looking at, you just basically, you going to jail. You cost somebody a life. You done destroyed somebody else's family. That other little boy that you killed, he'll never have a wife. He'll never have children. He'll never be a grandfather. He'll never graduate from high school, college. He won't be able to go to the prom because your ass didn't want to get your goofy ass up and leave. Okay, if you didn't want to leave, your scary ass didn't want to, you that goddamn scared, you got to pull a knife out. You big and bad enough to pull a knife out and stab somebody, but it's that much harder just to steal off on them. Have you lost your mind? And I would say to each and every one of my other guys, are you crazy? And this is what you're doing? You killed somebody because they pushed you? Where'd they do that at? You don't kill somebody because they push you. If you got a problem with it, you address it. Keep your hands off me. Back up off. And if you don't like it, you hit their ass in the jaw so they learn their lesson. And some of y'all keep dwelling on the fact, oh, he was 200 pounds. What the hell does that mean? In the world of men, 200 pounds is not very big at all. 6'1", 200 pounds is not something I would even consider tall. That's pretty extra regular to me. You got two 17-year-old men, both of them played football. You telling me that Karmelo Anthony was never pushed before on the football field by a linebacker or a lineman? I'm just saying. Or was it something else? Or were we ego tripping out here? Like a lot of us do. We get to ego trip. Because we don't want to get punked in front of all these other people, our friends, people that don't give a damn about you now. You see all of them came to court and testified against his ass. These are the people you're trying to impress.
This is a story that makes everyone cry. Laugh, cry, and ugly cry, and definitely totally not cry. But it's okay. You can always blame it on the altitude.
And testified against his ass. These are the people you're trying to impress. I'm just saying, these are the people you're trying to impress. Some little hotel girl that's looking at you and you want to look at a man, you're going to be getting looked at in prison for the next 10, 15. Y'all better think about it. You better talk to your children. What you better do, you better teach your children to control themselves, because see, this ain't just, the only reason we even talking about this problem is because a white boy got killed. And Karmelo Anthony, instead of killing Austin Metcalf, had he killed Jamal Jenkins, this wouldn't even make the evening news, would it? Tell the truth. Don't lie to me. Don't lie to me. Tell the truth. The only reason we talking about this problem because this boy jumped up and stabbed that white boy in the chest. That's why. Control yourselves. It's not that serious. How about that? How about we say that? How about instead of telling your children if somebody hit you, you hit them back harder? How about you say, why don't you try to avoid this conflict? Because you don't know where this is going to go. How about that? How about you don't want to throw your life away because somebody pushed you? How about you have more to live for than this little ego tripping that you're doing right now? You crash out. You throw your life away protecting a stadium seat. Not even a seat, a space on a bench. This is where you ready to crash out over that? I'm just saying, family, y'all don't have to listen to me. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to nothing I say. You go ahead and teach your children exactly what you want to. And let's see how far that gets you. Not very far in this society.
This is AB to the seventh power.
Well, we're here. You know what? Out of all cases I've ever done on this channel, this is the one I don't want to do the most. The comments are just so super charged. I don't like it. It's such a turn off. Like, I don't even want to do it. Like, I'm like, damn. Like, people are so crazy. And I'm like, man, this don't even feel like my community. It's just all new people coming to talk about what they think. It's so crazy. But we are here and we're going to do it. And y'all know, if you know me, hi, I'm Evie. If you don't know me, hi, I'm Evie, one of the OG content creators that covers trials on this platform on YouTube. I've been doing it for 4 years, went to law school, that bunch of new people here. Some of y'all might have already seen the verdict, and you know what's gonna happen. My OGs know. The people are gonna come over from Law and Crime and all those places, and they're gonna be like, oh my God, AB, I already know what the verdict is. It's guilty. Oh my God, it's guilty. Now you're gonna piss everyone off because you told us what the verdict is. You can't avoid it in any trial. It always happens. But what we will do is look at the entire day. Because if you watch my video from last night, which we are going to card up there somewhere in the future, we are going to share our storm season is here. And across the Carolinas, we're strengthening our systems to help prevent outages and our thoughts from a legal perspective, based off of people in the room, not rumors or bullshit. That's why I don't like this case, man. I hate not having eyes in the courtroom. I hate not having cameras that we can watch together. And I'm ranting, dear viewer, I know I am. But like, this is why I don't like these things, because people get all crazy.
Yep.
Like, like this is the only icky case I've ever covered on this channel that I just don't like. I'm just gonna be honest with you guys. I didn't even want to hit the live button. But we're here. We're gonna do it anyway. But we're gonna go from there. But yeah, like you guys already know. My OGs already know. I cannot stand when people are like, I already know the outcome, but I have to tell you. So if you're in chat, just know everybody's gonna come through and they're gonna be like, guilty, 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 guilty. So sorry, it's already spoiled. But let us go to the beginning of the day, because I want to pick up where I left off. And if you watched it with me yesterday, we're going to do it from that standpoint. All right, so we'll get to the final outcome. We'll likely get it done within an hour, but go from there. All right, I put JD Miles on the map, okay? We like did it for him. Okay. Shout out to JD Miles. I do respect people that go to the courthouse, journalists that are reporting what they see. And again, these are journalists that have been doing this stuff for decades. They're not making stuff up. Like, I can't even tell. This comment section in this case has just pissed me off so much. But whatever. Let's go to facts, because on this channel we cover facts. So let's see what happened in the courthouse. All right. So we left off at June 8th. Yesterday, when my editor got complete with putting out our video, we did miss one witness. All right. And I think we covered the 17-year-old witness, and then the court went on a very lengthy lunch break, so we did not miss anything yesterday afternoon, and we're just going to pick it up from there. So they were on break from about 12:30 to 2. That's a really big gap, so I'm happy that we weren't waiting around for that yesterday. There was a large delay. The jury was dismissed for the day after, and then closing was scheduled for this morning. So what I will do, and again, if you already know the outcome, we just want, like, for those that haven't seen it, just shh. Just don't say anything. Don't tell us. Just try. Can you do that to me? Can you try?
What's
Can
up,
you try
y'all?
to not tell us what happened? Can you not try to be a spoiler of the things that you already know? Just let's just watch. And if you have seen it, maybe you want my perspective. Maybe you want an I don't recall shirt, because sometimes we give things away over here. Or a mug. Maybe you want our merch. Maybe you want to be a part of our community. Who knows? We'll see. But just hang out. Just hang out, okay? And hit the like button, please. I mean, that's all you can do, because we already late. Just hit the like button. At least hit the like button. Okay, let's jump on in and see what today's shenanigans brought forward. Today, June 9th, 7 hours. The scene outside of a Cullen County courthouse this morning. Closing arguments will begin in less than an hour in the murder trial. This gentleman, J.D. Miles, again, a Texas reporter from the Plano area, will be inside of the courtroom, bringing it to you in real time. He expected reading around noon. It is now 4:55 Eastern Standard Time, 3:55 Central for all of you guys that are watching from Texas. Let's jump on in. 6 hours ago, defense in Karmelo Anthony trial objecting to the jury charge before closing arguments began. They are citing provoking the difficulty instruction under the penal code. This is related to the self-defense argument and provocation. What does that mean? Luckily, you have me, a legal scholar, that helps you out with what these things mean and how to piece them together. One of the biggest things in this case is the self-defense theory and the provocation, right? Provocation. Meaning, if somebody pokes at you, pokes and prod, what would a reasonable person do in that same situation? We call it in criminal law and criminology the reasonable person standard. Because there are so many people that have watched this already, I'm going to skip ahead and continue on so we can catch up with everybody else and talk about it towards the end. Next, prosecutors argued against the defense objection, saying that a rational jury can find that there was provocation, the lack of defensive wounds, defendant's comments, and a folding knife that was open. Judge overruled defense objection and another objection that the jury charge will not include criminally negligent homicide as a possible lesser offense. We do have some jury instructions, so I will show you guys that in a second. Next, 6 hours ago, jury will be allowed to consider manslaughter, so there are some lesser includeds here, in the Karmelo Anthony murder trial, as well as murder itself. And we know that there are different categories of murder, especially in the state of Texas. Now let's get to closing arguments, because it appears that they were about 35 minutes long. I doubt that J.D. Miles was able to capture every single word, but we are going to do our best with what we have without adequate and official court transcripts. Okay, let's keep going. Again, we're not spoiling it. Everybody that's here, it's okay if you know. We're just trying to go through these tweets together. You've likely already seen it. If you're new and you're like me and you haven't seen it, then this, dear viewer, is going to be an adventure. Let's go in. Closing arguments. Prosecutor waived the right to open, so the defense team went first.
This one battery, help me build all this.
And clean all this. Enjoy all this. team went first. Here we go. Austin had no legal right to use force to eject Carmelo Anthony from that tent. He had no legal right to put hands on Carmelo. Carmelo is in a public place. We ask you this incredibly tough task, which is to follow the law. The government wants to make this case about Melo.
Yep.
That Melo could have just left. You heard that a track event is a social event. It was completely common for kids to be milling about and go by and say hi and stop into a tent. We know that it was raining. I don't know why we have had to have this argument about whether it was raining. We know how Texas weather is. So it's easy to think, boy, I better get out of this rain. He says a witness testified, we had no problem with him under the tent while it was raining. You have to put yourself in Carmelo's shoes. So you start under that tent. You went to get out of the rain. Or if you want to get out of the rain, sorry. Sure enough, one of the people at Memorial says, yeah, come on over. What does that say? Is that an invitation to come under the tent? What? I just lost my place. We're going to go back in. Was that an invitation to come under the tent? Sure enough, one of the people at Memorial says, yeah, come on over. Then all of a sudden, Hunter or Austin say, who are you? You need to leave, question mark. These guys are much bigger than you. Do you turn your back and walk away and take a chance at these teenage boys with their raging hormones? What? And take a chance at these teenage boys with their raging hormones? And see,
Who
this is
the
what
fuck
I mean.
wrote this shit?
JD could complete the full sentences as fast as possible. You have to be a court reporter to type this quickly. Austin and Hunter had the right to tell Melo to leave, but did they have the right to use deadly force to make him leave? What? Melo had
This
an
makes no
absolute right
sense.
to defend himself against that.
That right there makes no fucking
Second
sense.
of chaos when it's too late. Because if you wait too late to defend yourself, self-defense is meaningless. That's not 35 minutes. That's not 35 minutes of an ending. All right, JD continues with what he has, right? We heard a lot of differing accounts from the kids who were under that tent. I know it's obvious, but let me just say it. Every single one was a Memorial kid. We should have been on guard for having a bias because of course they would. Austin was their leader. So let me say this again. So we heard a very jumbled account of what really happened in that tent. It was a shove. It was a hit. It was a lineman drill. On Anthony leaving the scene, not exactly escaping like the guilty do, Melo had every opportunity to go right out that exit. We heard about Melo's emotions. Every single person who saw him down on the track said he was crying. What did he say? Melo said, he's not going to die. It's clear he thought he stabbed him in a place that he was not going to die. Austin reportedly said that Karmelo, according to a witness, if you don't move, I'll beat your ass. As much as we may not like it, even a 17-year-old kid can legally have a 5.5-inch knife, even in a high school stadium. Yes, it's a violation of policy, but it's not a crime. Texas law doesn't require that you wait until you get hit. So ask yourself, has the government ruled out reasonable doubt when you put yourself in Melo's shoes under that tent? Goes on to say, you didn't hear the words motive in the jury charge, but you can make reasonable deductions as to how that applies to intent. Karmelo has no motive other than he absolutely felt like he was in danger. The evidence is very clear. These kids didn't know each other. This case is not about race as much as people want to make it about that.
There's no evidence that Karmelo did anything but really thinking he was defending himself in that split second of chaos. He says the way the knife entered shows that it wasn't intentional. He says Karmelo's hand was underneath the knife and not on top. On credibility of memorial students who testified, I understand where they're coming from. They lost their brother. On why Karmelo didn't walk away, if you turn your back on him, who knows what happened? We've had this chorus of people, but it's too late to turn your back. What's
Right.
going to happen? I don't know. On Karmelo keeping his hand in the bag, you don't have something in that bag. I do have something in that bag. On the touch me and find out comment from Karmelo, this is the ultimate warning. It is the ultimate back off. From the defense team. What do you guys think? Effective? Effective? Did the defense attorney do a good job? Put a 1 in the chat if you think the defense attorney did a good job. And I know. There are people in this chat that are going to be like, "Dude, he did a shit job, baby, shit." So supercharged. Put a 1 in the chat if you think he did good. Put a 2 in the chat if you think he didn't. But remember, in fairness, that was 35 minutes of argument. That was in 2 tweets, 2 or 3 tweets. That wasn't the full thing. So it wasn't the full and complete closing argument. This is why I cannot stand. It drives me insane to not be able to see what's going on in the courtroom. Like, I mean, at least the last time I did this, trial by tweet was the Diddy case. But you know what? You had everybody in their mama in that courtroom. Your mother, your mother's mother, every reporter connected to anything was in that courtroom. The press pool was large, so there weren't these spots of a lack of the complete transcript. So I will say, as a commentator, this pisses me off too, Chad. It does. I want to see the full thing. I want to see the full transcript. If I'm a viewer, I mean, this would piss me off. It's like having a plot to a story and not being able to see the complete and full story.
The World Cup is the biggest competition in the world. Every player plays it.
Story. Lots of new people in here. I mean, mods, just fuck it. This is just fuck it, mods. Like, fuck it. Like, go ahead. Just time them out. Do what you can. This is not my favorite chat in 4 years of doing legal commentary. Let's keep going. All right. Let's go to the prosecution. The closing argument here. All right? We started with the defense. On the prosecution side, when they talk about Karmelo's touch me comment, do not let them turn threat into a warning. You heard the testimony. You know it was a threat. It wasn't a warning. Next topic. On the defense testimony that Austin could have stabbed himself. The prosecutor says that's ludicrous. What you heard his mindset. He took a knife to a track meet. He was going to come out on top of any hostile encounter. That's mindset. This is one of those rare cases where every important fact can be boiled down into one sentence. You do not get shove with a stab, especially if you provoke the shove. It's crystal clear. The facts are simple. You don't get to meet a shove with a stab, especially if you provoke the shove. They said he was confused because the twins were coming at him, again trying to turn the threat into a warning. There was no fuse on this thing. They went from 0 to 100 like that. Thank goodness we have the video. The video tells the story. Why didn't he just not walk away? You see, he had a choice to walk away and abandon the encounter. 459,000 views on Twitter. Let's keep moving up.
prosecutor continues and says on whether manslaughter would apply in this case instead of murder. If you think Austin impaled himself on Karmelo's knife, find him guilty of manslaughter. On the witnesses, they all said Karmelo Anthony provoked it. Why self-defense doesn't apply? You can meet deadly force with deadly force in Texas, but you can't meet a force, a shove, with deadly force, a stab. Side differential, it doesn't work in this case. You don't get to kill someone just because they are bigger than you. Self-defense has to be a reasonable belief. A reasonable belief means a belief that would be held by an ordinary and prudent person in the same situation as the defendant. It has to be immediately necessary. Where was the immediate necessity to plunge a knife into an unarmed young man? It's not self-defense, folks. It's murder. Murder. Plain and simple. No one standing up. No one surrounding Karmelo Anthony. The Memorial kids hadn't turned on him. The video was so important. You can see with your own eyes how normal that day was. At some point, when he reached into the bag, he opened it and had it all ready. He had it ready to go. Did Austin have defensive wounds? No. He never saw it coming. If this case was really about a young man trying to stay out of the rain, get under the bleachers, on why he ran for an exit instead of a coach. It's a guilty mindset. He touched me. He did this. He did that. What would he have said if he was really confronted by both of the twins? His words alone belie the fact that this was one-on-one. This was not a mob of Memorial kids. Reciting a witness who testified about Karmelo's behavior, he had it in his mind what he was going to do. Let us continue. Prosecutor continues in his closing, I'm not going to fight you, Austin says multiple times. On the one witness who knew about Austin and Karmelo, it was a hard push. It wasn't a hard push. It was a small shove. Correction, guys. That was my bad. Karmelo Anthony was trying to prove that he could do a violent act. Well, he sure did, folks. He sure did. He told you the exact same thing. It's not self-defense. Austin didn't want to fight. It's a tragedy for everyone involved, and there's a lot of truth in that outside of this courtroom. It's not a tragedy for Karmelo Anthony. It's a tragedy because of the decisions he made. It is senseless that Austin lost his life on a Wednesday morning at a high school track meet. We do not take weapons to school events, but he did. Ultimately, this case is about accountability. What kind of community do you want to live in? You represent the community today. As unpleasant as it may be, it's your duty to follow your oath and hold this young man accountable for this senseless murder. I beg you to make justice swift. This case, closing arguments over. The judge is giving instructions to alternate jurors 5 hours ago. The jury in the Karmelo Anthony murder trial has just retired to deliberate after closing arguments finished. They will decide between murder, manslaughter, or acquittal. Now, J.D. Miles did get his hands on, it looks like jury instructions here. I will see if I can make this bigger for those of you that want to follow along at home. See if we can zoom in a bit because it is, no, it looks like we can't zoom in, but I do have them. I'll read it to you.
Nature's miracle. Permanently eliminate tough odors and stains at the source.
GLCFC and IFS. Built on ambition, driven by intelligence.
All right. Jury instructions. Members of the jury. Okay, it looks like we have pages 1 through 5. They look very standard from what I can see. 1, 2, 3, 4,
and 5, 6, 7. Okay, these are typically, and let me come and take a break and talk to you guys for a second. These are typically standard when it comes to any criminal trial. You will be given jury instructions if you're sitting on the jury. The judge will help put them together along with the prosecution side and the defense's side. They will work together on the jury instructions. It typically happens midway through the trial, but this had probably been drafted days ahead of time. Now, I will tell you, today is Tuesday, June 9th, and opening arguments began on Thursday, June, what was last? I think it was like the 6th, 7th. Give you the precise date because you guys know they're gonna be like, you're wrong in the comments. It's fucking terrible. I hate it. Okay, June 4th, this trial began with opening arguments. The jury selection began, I believe, on the 1st. It went through about 600 to 700 people, but all of this stuff happened very fast in this case. I will tell you that. Aside from the Afro Man trial, we also saw up in my way, up in Massachusetts, we saw the trial with Cardi B's ex, Stephon Diggs, and the chef. That was a 2-day trial as well. This is actually very, very fast for a criminal trial, okay? Let's talk about the jury instructions, and I'll try to make myself small. I know this is very tiny, but this is what they are. Members of the jury, Karmelo Anthony, the defendant, stands charged by indictment with the offense of murder, alleged to have been committed on or about April 2nd, 2025 in Collin County, Texas. To this charge, the defendant has pled not guilty. The law requires that I submit the following instructions to you in this case. These instructions, contain all the law necessary to enable you to reach a verdict. If any evidence was presented to raise an issue, the law on that issue must be provided. You are to read these instructions as a whole. The law applicable to this case is as follows, right? Now, because it's 7 pages, I'm going to just break down the titles to you and not read the full thing. We have presumptions and the burden of proof, all right? So that is who has the burden of proof and what the presumptions are in this case. And next is term definitions. They break down 4. Bodily injury, so they tell you what bodily injury means. So you, dear viewer, if you're on the jury, they break down what bodily injury means legally in the state of Texas. It means physical pain, illness, or impairment of physical condition. Bodily weapon is the next one. That means anything in the manner of its use or intended use of is capable of causing death or serious bodily injury. So the deadly weapon here is likely the knife. Individual means a human being who is alive. Why is that important? They teach us that in laws. If someone is passed on, are they still a human being after they pass? So you're really looking at the actions of one person in this space. Next, serious bodily injury means bodily injury that creates a substantial risk of death or that causes death, serious permanent disfigurement, or protracted loss of impairment of the function of any bodily member or organ. Arms, legs, anything that is protruding from the body, your bodily member. The offense definition, they give you some more definitions, right? A person commits murder if he intentionally or knowingly causes the death of an individual. What say you, Jack? Did he do it? A person also commits murder if he intends to cause serious bodily injury and commits an act clearly dangerous to human life that causes the death of an individual. What do you say, Jack? Did he do it? A person commits manslaughter if he recklessly causes the death of an individual. Okay? So they gave you those 3 offense definitions for a reason. Now, when we come to mental state, this is the intent part of the crime, right? Because with murder, mens rea and actus reus are the 2 things that you need when it comes to criminal law. Mens rea, Latin term, it is your intent, thinking of committing that crime. Actus reus, also Latin, is you acting upon those thoughts in committing the crime. Do you have those two things with Mello? And this is why I'm going to speed through this, because like I said, there's those people that come from the Law and Crime Chat, Court TV, they already know the outcome, and they're like, guilty, Amy, guilty. All right. We're going to catch up to you guys. But we do need to have a little chat here about these things, okay? So, coming back to it. Offense definitions, the mental state definitions as to murder. The person acts intentionally or with intent with respect to the result of his conduct when it is his conduct, when his conscious objective or desire is to cause the result. So you need those two things. It's almost like an addition problem. Conscious objective or desire to cause the result leads to the result. A person acts knowingly or with knowledge with respect to the result of his conduct when he is aware that his conduct is reasonably certain to cause the result. Right? They go on to give you the definition of murder in the state of Texas. They go on to tell you the mental state definition as to manslaughter, and then they go on to give you manslaughter. That is 3 layers of what the potential sentencing could be and what the potential final outcome could be. Is it murder? Is it manslaughter? But in order to get to the bottom of that page, dear viewer, we have to tell you what the mental state, the intent for manslaughter is. That's the middle of the page. Okay? That's page 3. Coming to page 4, very, very important self-defense, and that is the use of deadly force in Texas. I'm not going to go over that because you guys already know what the outcome is, but this was the law in the state of, or not even was, is. Okay? You can use it, but it has to come with certain terms. 1, the use of force against another is not justified in the response to a verbal provocation alone. If I had a highlighter, I would highlight the hell out of that word, but this is a photograph, so I can't. Number 2, if the actor provoked the other's use or attempted use of unlawful force, unless, I love A's and B's. A, the actor abandons the encounter or clearly communicates to the other his intent to do so, reasonably believing he cannot safely abandon the encounter. And B, the other nevertheless continues or attempts to use unlawful force against the actor. Right? That, dear viewer, is when it's not justified. Let's go to the bottom half of the page. A person is justified in using deadly force in another. This is when it's okay. 1, if the person would be justified in using that force against the other, and you need both, when and to the degree the person reasonably believes a deadly force is immediately necessary to protect himself against the other's use or attempted use of unlawful deadly force. Alright. Skipping ahead, going to page 5, they go on to reasonable belief and clearly spell that out for you. Deadly force, clearly spell that out for you. They say you are further instructed that it is your duty to consider all relevant facts and circumstances surrounding the alleged killing in the previous relationship existing between the accused and the deceased, if any, together with all of these facts and circumstances to show the condition of the mind of Karmelo at the time of the alleged offense. Now, therefore, bearing in mind the foregoing definitions and instructions, if you believe from the evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that Karmelo did commit murder or manslaughter, but you further find from the evidence or have reasonable doubt thereof that the defendant reasonably believed that deadly force when and to the degree used, if it was immediately necessary to protect himself against the use or attempted use of unlawful deadly force by Austin or others, you will acquit the defendant and say, by your verdict, not guilty. Right? So you see from these jury instructions, it clearly spells out how the jury gets to an outcome. If they go not guilty, you needed to satisfy the items that were talked about in that paragraph. That's an option. I should go through all of them because you guys know that I hate this case so much. Like the comment section makes me want to barf. I hate it so much. But next up, they talk about if you lead to a guilty verdict, here's how you get there. So because we're already there. Let's go to that section. You will find the defendant on his plea of self-defense. They did not get there. On his plea of self-defense, they did not get there. Deadly force was necessary. I think it is this paragraph at the top. If you find or believe the evidence beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant immediately before the difficulty did some act, used some language, or both with the intent to produce the occasion to bring on the difficulty and kill Austin, and that such conduct was reasonably calculated to and did provoke a difficulty, and in that response to this provocation, Austin attacked the defendant or reasonably appeared to attack him or about to attack him, and the defendant then killed Austin in pursuance of the original design. If you find that was such, or produced a necessity for taking the life of Austin, you will find against the defendant's claim of self-defense. All right? Next up, page 6, we talk about the evidence and how the jury needs to weigh the evidence. All right? And then the concluding instruction. They were given this around noon. Okay? Like I said, it's 5:24 Eastern Standard Time. Thank you to J.D. Miles. We're going to keep going. And he showed screenshots of the judge's charge to the jury and Karmelo Anthony's murder trials, the instructions they followed to determine whether the defendant's actions met the requirements of a murder or manslaughter. If they don't meet the requirements of either, he will be found not guilty. He says he was headed in the courtroom 2 hours ago and will reveal the verdict as soon as it's announced. 2 hours ago, the verdict was reached. Karmelo Anthony's murder trial, it will be announced sometime after 2:05. Scrolling up. Tense scene in and around Collin County Courthouse. More than 24 deputies outside of the courtroom alone. Outside, a crowd is gathering with chants of free Karmelo.
This is outside the courthouse. She's playing. Sorry, y'all can't see. Okay, I'm back, y'all. My bad.
Not much going on there. I mean, like, I hear some music, but I don't. If they're chanting free Karmelo, I didn't really hear much. 1 hour ago, dear chat, breaking, a Collin County jury has found Karmelo Anthony guilty of murder and the death of Austin. Karmelo breaks down in tears. You can hear inside of the courtroom his bond has been extinguished. He is in custody of Collin County Sheriff. Karmelo Anthony's mother is taking the stand now as the sentencing phase of his murder trial begins. Prosecution and defense waived opening statements. Now, for those that have been watching trials with me and are not new, we just finished the Julio Fulio murder trial about 3 weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago, and this is common where sometimes when you have high intensity cases, you will immediately go into the penalty phase. So after the jury reaches its verdict, you will go into the penalty phase of that trial, And the jury will then, the second part of their job is to recommend what the appropriate sentencing is. Okay? So that's what we're looking at in these tweets. And again, I look forward to everybody saying I'm wrong. I don't know what I'm talking about. Didn't go to law school for 4 years or do undergrad in legal. Gotta love being a YouTuber. It's so much fun. Next, Karmelo's mother is taking the stand now as the sentencing phase of his murder trial begins. Prosecution and defense waived opening statements. Moving ahead, an hour ago, punishment phase ended abruptly after one witnessed Karmelo Anthony's mother. Both sides rested after waiving opening statements. What did the mother say? He's my oldest. He's my firstborn. He will always be my baby. I love him very much. Defense. Does your son regret what he did? Mother. Yes. He's very sorry for what he did. Punishment phase just ended after one witness. 2 questions from defense and 1 from the prosecution. Judge will work on charge. We have another video. It's a scene outside the Cullen County Courthouse after guilty verdict in Karmelo Anthony trial.
At DeVry, our #1 goal is helping you achieve yours. Whether you're looking to move into management or move on to something new, DeVry helps turn your passion into possibility. You work toward your goals. DeVry works for you.
Let me just do a quick refresh to see if there's anything else we are missing. Thank you so much to JD Miles. That was as of 17 minutes ago. So, dear viewer, that's it. Like I said, this was not one of my favorite cases to cover on this channel. In fact, I dislike it. I mean, you have 2 families, you have young men involved.
Yeah.
Hasn't been easy. And I'm sure everybody has their opinions or their stance on it. You know, there was one long-time supporter of mine. You know, I've been doing this for 4 years. It's the first time we disagreed. And I don't like that. You know, I'm really here. What I do is, purpose of this channel really is to take what I've learned with this legal education and give back and teach. So, you know, for myself, it's been difficult to, you know, see all of the I'm just gonna say it's bullshit, because there's all these rumors online, and that's what happens when you cannot see you know, a courtroom for yourself, or if there's cameras in there. But at the same time, we have to be sensitive that a lot of these witnesses were still high school students, and they need to be protected because they're minors. And the judge made a call, and that call was bring them in on a Saturday, have a lot of them testify, but they're still kids. There's so many kids. Whatever color they are, there's so many kids involved. So I didn't really enjoy doing this one. I'm not even gonna hold you guys. I did it because you guys wanted me to. The only reason. Like, other than that, half hour ago I was walking my dog and chilling. Okay. Let's read some super chats. See what questions you guys have. You know, it's tough. Like, it's racially charged. I don't want it to be. But, like, I think the thing for me is doing this for so long and people coming at my competence. And as a person that has studied so hard, yeah, I know I could be a licensed attorney. I'm not licensed right now. I know I could be licensed and doing this in courtrooms every day. But for me, I think the bigger mission and purpose is to serve the public by being a voice and being right here next to you, watching what's happening in a courtroom and being a voice in that respect. So if you want to judge me for doing that and come at my competence, fine. We gonna do it anyway, all right? Like, we gonna do it anyway. That's fine. But again, if you're new here and you want to stick around, that's cool. I don't recall what I said today. In my first rodeo, we've had national amazing attorneys. Some of the best criminal defense attorneys on this channel that I've interviewed. So I'm at my confidence is fine. Let's come to super chats and we gonna get the hell out of here because I'm done with this one. Deanna hit me with the 2, says, AV, I waited your coverage. Thank you so much. And to all of those that have watched my regardless of color, it's raining. Put a 1 in the chat if you would have defended yourself. Put a 2 in the chat if you would have walked away. I'm not going to judge you. I just want to see numbers. Chelsea said, this is really the fuck around and find out generation. I know, it's terrible. I see some 1s. I see some 1s. I see some 2s, too. I see some 2s. No, I wouldn't. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I do see a majority of 2s. I'm sorry, 1s. I see a majority of 1s. Couple 2s. There are some people that would choose to walk away. And you know what's so wild to me? I trust my chat because, like, this is why I know. It's not you guys. It's the comment section. It's the new people that come here. And you know what I mean? Like, all the cases that we talked about, we understand how important this space is to have and to talk about criminology in the United States, especially when it comes to people of color. And I don't give a shit if people judge me for it. I'm sorry. I grew up in a rough part of Boston, okay? At the end of the day, they're like, oh, you K-Birdie, you still black. We ain't got nothing. There ain't a bubble for you to fill in. There ain't no mixed bubble. You black, okay? Black. African? Yes, black. Okay, black. African American. So that's actually one of the purposes and reasons why I went to law school. Because this stuff makes me so angry. And it shouldn't. But it's just like, when people actually look at people of color in the space of law, and it was just like, you're dumb, you're wrong, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry, do you want to take these books and go to law school yourself? Do you want to figure it out? Do you want to go do that? It makes me so hot, guys. It makes me so hot. See, look at this. You went to law school and you're defending a murderer. When the fuck did I say that? When? Chat? Did I say it? When did I physically say AV to the 7th power cosigns murder? When did I say that? Do you see what I mean? Do you see? When did I say that? I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. Yeah, you know what? Thank you, YT. Let me come back to my people. I just, like, people that have watched me for years, y'all know I don't turn up. But, like, literally, this case is so crazy because you get people that, like, will try to piss you off.
Yeah.
And it's insane. I mean, some of y'all are Jess is having a ball. When, Jess? Hold on, we're gonna have fun with this. We are going to enjoy this, all right?
For everybody for our pain and suffering, we've watched this trial. Let's go to the 85 South show. Okay, let's go to the 85 South show. When? When did I say?
That woke up still something special. Club sales brings the hype. Whether it's for that, yeah, it's still not in fit check. All couch athlete trash talk. Club sale just hits. Crack open the cans and simply surviving another Tuesday. Club sales. Hype your night.
Do y'all remember when I said it? I don't care if it's still professional.
Good change. Still need to every shit. Carlos, please.
When?
Andy on it, put saying crying and shit.
When?
Whitfield? Hey, my boy don't cry. My boy don't cry. Mr. Whitfield, you agreed to be here. You agreed to be here. I agreed to shit. Nigga drove me here. I was standing up there by the corner. Mr. Whitfield.
My daughter said, I'm going to get something to eat, and all of a sudden we in the motherfucking room.
Mr. Whitfield, calm down.
Oh, we some motherfucking pancake.
Mr. Whitfield, I'm sorry, Mr. Go ahead. It's your time.
This is it.
When did I say it? When?
This is it. That was the final straw, man. Final straw, I'm thirsty. Shit. I know he back on them drugs, man, because this the final straw, man. These
When?
Mr. Whitfield. Mr. Whitfield.
He said I'm on drugs. When?
This is your child, Mr. Whitfield.
Man, I've been clean. He said I'm on drugs. Nigga, when?
Mr. Whitfield. You're making this much more difficult than it has to be.
He keep listening, motherfucker. You don't need no fault. He keep telling me I'm on drugs. Nigga, when?
Listen, I'm so sorry about this.
See what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying, but I still
He high right now.
I need you to get it out. He has to
He
hear it.
high right now.
He needs to hear it.
He think we don't know, but we do know. He stole $300 from the youth choir. See, that's your problem. I stole 200. They cheering. What they gonna do? They can't say no goddamn way to win.
Mr. Whitfield, look at me. All right. As the intervention specialist and as a therapist, I have to ask you, what do you feel is the importance of making your son have a better relationship with you after all of these years of your absence?
Make him have a better relationship.
Now that's when, Mr. Whitfield.
But, son, listen, son. I know I wasn't there. Okay?
Yes.
Where are you right now? We are in the basement of a church.
No, we're in the Cox Center.
No, I ain't in no dicks. I'm not in nothing.
No, he's not in nothing. That's what I'm saying. That's where I am. I am not in nothing. When? That's so crazy, chat. Anyway, I love y'all. I love my chat, my people. We stick together.
Okay, Miss AV, we're gonna go to Nick at Night and end it. Here we go.
All right. Hey, what's up? It's your girl Neek, and you're tuned in to Neek at Night. And tonight, I have a special guest by the name of Emerald Stone. Now, if you guys have been on social media and you have been seeing that clip go around where there's this guy.
First off, I'm not one of those people defending a murderer. Okay? I believe he was overcharged. The charge should have been manslaughter. So don't you come in my chat say I'm defending a murderer. You know what? Let me get rid of your ass. Motherfucker. Don't come in my chat talking shit. Get the fuck out, dickhead. Dick-headed motherfucker.
There's this guy saying Karmelo Anthony should be hung by a tree. That's his work. He has been outside documenting for his company or Instagram.
Yeah, from my Instagram.
Okay, and so today he was inside the courtroom for the closing argument. Outside of today, I have been there every single day inside the courtroom, looking at the jury, seeing how this whole process went down. And to even go back further, I started my introduction into this case with trying to get credentials to be the media or one of the media seats that is inside the courtroom. So we're going to go over what he saw today when it was closing arguments. I'm going to give you guys insights on what I know about the whole process that has been happening. We're going to do like a call section where some of you guys come up and speak. But we're going to do that right after this intro. So give yourself some time to go grab some snacks, or whatever you need. And we'll be right back. We are out here in Beverly Hills with Raz B. I haven't seen you on the scene in a minute, so let the people know what you've been up to. Hey, what's up? I got Amara Lanegra here with me tonight at the Toast to Young Hollywood event. Hey guys, so I have the beautiful Layla Ali with me tonight. So I just want to first start off by saying your Instagram is an inspiration to go on a path to eat healthy, and it is your 50th birthday. You don't look a day over 25.
You know what?
Let us know how you do it.
First, everybody always say that. I think that's so cliche, and people know you don't look 25. Now, if you would have said maybe 40.
Hey, what's up? You're watching Meek at Night, and we have Keith Powers with us tonight.
How you doing? How you doing?
A lot of girls was like putting you as their, man crush, and you was their, aspiration to take you off the market. And when you came out with Bae, you crushed a lot of people. Hey guys, so I have Daniel Cormier with me tonight, and it's crazy because my first UFC fight happened to be your fight.
I'm glad you were able to watch the first fight that was mine and I won, because that could be some bad memories.
Right. I mean, okay, I'm not gonna lie. When I first seen it, I seen him come.
Look at my ass kicked.
Yeah.
Look at you.
Okay. I'm not gonna tell a lie. Okay, I'm gonna keep it honest. Definitely experience, you guys. That's Amarian, and we're at his word for word screening. It was super dope. Make sure you check it out. It drops tomorrow, and you don't want to miss it.
Thank you, baby.
Thank you.
It's your partner, Big Boy. It's happening, the voice of Los Angeles. Hello. You know what I do at night? I watch Meek at Night. Show you right. You thought I was going to say something crazy. So I was going to say something disgusting and nasty. Yeah. But guess what? When I watch that Meek at Night, I may be doing something disgusting and nasty. Look at her. Hello.
Hey, what's up? It's your girl Meek, and you're tuned in to Meek at Night. If this is your first time here, over here we are the Night Owls. If you have not hit that subscribe button, I want you to go ahead and do that right now and turn on your notification bell. It was a disservice to Karmelo Anthony to not have somebody to understand the different, like one of the teachers who was in jury selection doing voir dire, she said that there's so many social economical classes, there's so many nuances, and it was so important for somebody like that to come in as an expert. Now, one thing that I will say is, even though it's like you're looking at this and I'm disappointed in the performance of the defense, one thing that I have to make very clear is we don't know what rulings were made prior to court, right? So like when I covered the Diddy trial, and we were able to see what motions the defense made and what motions the state made, and we were able to see what the judge granted and what they didn't grant, or what they tried to admit into evidence, and all of these things. In this case, all of the pretrial motions were sealed, okay? So we could not see what Karmelo's team tried to get entered into evidence. We did not see what things were blocked from entering into evidence. So this could be, and I'm still trying to, like, even though I'm disappointed in the lawyer, I'm also thinking, like, what was he battling in the first place as far as, like, what's able to be admitted? Was he able to even bring an expert in? Or what the deal is? I would like to know, because that's, yeah.
Yeah, that's important. Well, one thing that I also heard, some people mention was that the actual judge was just, I mean, cutting down the defense. Every angle that the defense tried to work, the judge just kept on cutting him. Very dismissive about everything that was brought up by the defense. So the judge played a big role in this as well, because I remember the second I saw him, there was the second I saw him, there was a kind of like a weight on his face, almost like that there was a chip on his shoulder. So it kind of, at that point, it became apparent to many of us that it wouldn't be, probably wouldn't go well. It did. So
yeah, it was interesting. Let me know what you felt like. What was the atmosphere like outside when the verdict was read?
Okay, so it was. Well, I can give you like a little bit beforehand and then kind of leading into it, because before it was like, it was getting tense. People were starting to talk with the other side. It's like little arguments, and people were getting in people's faces. By the time that we actually got to the verdict, the heat was already turned up. It wasn't that the verdict hit and the heat turned up. It was already like very, very close as we felt it approaching. And when it finally came, it was almost like a climax was hit. So built up, and the climax was hit. And then, of course, we see there's many videos out there of people falling to the ground in tears. There's, videos of people screaming in anger, and, and just kind of tired of the suffering. I mean, so it was heartbreaking was the word I used earlier. So it was very heartbreaking, like a collective heartbreak.
And then you've seen like different people getting in different people's faces and saying, like, just the energy between them. I'm gonna show you guys some of the videos that was outside of the courtroom that I was able to see on social media. Let me show you guys 1 second. This is one of the news reporters that was outside, and it captured some of the essence. And if Emerald has any videos, we'll play those as well. But let me share this with you guys. And again, his name is Emerald Stone on Instagram, and I'll show you guys his IG in a second, because a lot of you were like, oh, who's this guy? Nick, who's that? So let me share with you guys this video.
Just got some notes from our local reporter who is inside the courtroom. So when that guilty verdict was read, I'm told that Karmelo Anthony was crying. He was shaking. His defense attorney kept his arm around his shoulders the entire time. And also I'm told that Austin Metcalf's twin brother, Hunter, this was the first time he was inside the courtroom when that guilty verdict was read. I'm told it was really emotional from both sides after that murder verdict. And as for what's next, Will, now it's the sentencing phase. He is charged with murder, so he could face up to life in prison. The same exact juror, they're the ones who decide how long he remains behind bars. And that's what this sentencing phase sentencing phase is. That reporter inside the courtroom tells me that Karmelo Anthony's mother, she's already taken the stand. This is a direct quote. She said, quote, "He is my oldest, my firstborn, my baby. I love him very much." I'm told that she had mascara running down her face and asked the jury, quote, "Please have mercy on my son." And then the prosecutor sort of cross-examined her and said, "Is it true you can still have a relationship with your son while he's behind bars?" So this is sort of the next phase.
Like, how can you imagine your son defended himself and he was stacked against the odds, right? He went up there to see a boy who he thought he was cool with. He turned on him. You got these two big buff, like I want to say buff, but these big, broad-shouldered linebacker football players, and the whole entire track, like not the entire track team, but like a big group of them, all screaming out to him, yeah, you don't belong here. You need to go, laughing at him like, oh, you from Frisco, you ain't got nothing in that bag, like testing him. And then he's the one where they flip the script when they put their hands on him. He never gets out of his seat. He's sitting down the whole time. He's just making sure that he got protection on him. They're all like, one is putting out his phone, acting like he's recording. Another one is like, boy, you from Frisco, you ain't got nothing. Austin's also telling him he's from Frisco, he ain't got nothing. Another juror who's a black boy, he testified and he said, I thought it was funny. I laughed. We were laughing at him. So you have teenage boys laughing at him, trying to intimidate him, get in his face, and then you go as far as to go and put your hands on me, and the prosecutor tells your mom, well, good luck. Like, you can still have a relationship with him in jail. Like, what? Like, excuse me? That's crazy. Do you want to chime in, or I'll play some more?
Well, yeah, I did send you a video. I just messaged you one, of some of the energy of what was going on out there. And yeah, no, all in all, it just felt like the second you walked into the courtroom, everything felt set. The jury felt set. The judge felt set. Everything felt set. Like, it felt like for me personally, a losing situation. Yeah. And it was kind of hopeless. It's one of those situations where you're like praying for like justice, and then justice actually wasn't served. So yeah, very, very, very kind of frozen feeling in the room while outside was hitting a climax.
Yeah, somebody's saying, you guys are telling me to read somebody's comment. I don't see it. Oh wait, it's a group on Facebook. You're being targeted. I don't know why, but they had your kid on there, even her fucking school, your family address, all type of hateful comments. Oh, this is what you guys are talking about. What group?
Hey,
what's the name of the group? Is it? What's the name of the group?
And I gotta pause this for a second. The way these people have been coming after Nick at Night just for reporting is the biggest piece of bullshit I've ever seen on the planet. Only thing she's doing is talking about the case. And that's it. You don't have to agree with the way somebody's reporting on a case, but to drain someone's life over it is the biggest piece of bullshit on the damn planet. If you don't like the commentary, just move the fuck on. Why you gonna sit and harass somebody over their damn commentary? It's bullshit.
DM me and let me know. If my child is on any page, if her school is on any page, if my address is on any page, all of that would be...
I'm gonna say this too. The fact that Nick at Night needed the Black Panthers of Texas to make sure she and other black content creators were safe is bullshit. Cause the police, yes, the local police should have kept her safe, but they didn't. But here's the thing: they kept Sarah Fields safe. They kept Jake Lang safe, but none of the black people there who were reporting on this, they said flat out that they didn't feel safe. Nick at Night said she didn't feel safe. There's some chick that's affiliated with Roland Martin, who said that she didn't feel safe out there. I can't think of her name off the top of my head, but it'll come to me. Shit.
All of that would be a a result of, it's called Snitch at Night. Interesting. Oh, can you have me my phone right
Damn,
there? I'm gonna
really?
check. Let me see.
Pouring all this energy into Neat for no damn reason. And I guarantee you, some of these people probably don't even work if they're able to work.
Y'all will have to send me a link. I don't see any. I don't see it. Let me see. I don't see it on my thing, but
Okay, yeah. Yeah, you're gonna have to send me a link.
yeah, you gotta send me a link. I don't see it.
Is he calling Kaepernick? Yes.
And is the sound coming through? Is it coming through? Let me know. But anyways, enough of that. I'm not worried about that because if my address, if my social media or anything that's not like public is on any group or any page, I will be taking legal action. I'm going to
As
be
you should.
holding Sarah J. Fields
As you
accountable for all
should.
of the targeted attacks against me. And I would like to know if there is anything like that out there. I would like you guys to screenshot it, document it, and send it to me because all targeted attacks against me, all of these racial comments where people are discrediting me, and all of these things that are affecting my physical job of being a media reporter, and if anything hinders the ability for my child to maintain the safety in her school or anything like that, we will be taking legal action. We have already started looking into different legal channels. There is a lot of people to be held accountable, but I need you guys' help in documenting. So definitely will not be playing any games with any fucking body that plays with the safety of my child, plays with the safety of my well-being, and anything like that. So I just want to make that clear. But with that being said, we're not going to spend too much time on it because we will be holding Sarah Fields accountable.
As you should.
I'm not playing. Like, you can think I'm playing if you want to. She can think that these little frivolous lawsuits that she has all these other people tied into is, you know what I mean, because they're going through the legal process is something, baby, play with it. Okay, so anyways.
You know one thing about today's case, just today's court case. It was very short. It was like surprisingly short. I mean, it was 30 minutes each.
That's how it was for the opening statements. They were 20 minutes each.
Yeah. So I mean, and it for some reason it felt like the judge gave the state a little bit more time, but that was just maybe that's just my own bias. But but it was 30 minutes each. And then one thing I think is notable to mention is that the jury came back with a verdict like very fast. Like we were thinking that, you know, maybe give it a couple hours, you know, maybe even overnight because they were potentially going to put them in a hotel and what have you. They came in about, I would say, about an hour or so with a verdict, which then again feeds to the idea of them already having their mindset the whole time.
Yeah. Have their mind made up. And before I go, I want to thank Cody for the good luck. Thanks for wishing good luck because my luck is going to always prevail. So just like my luck prevailed during this case. Every day that I showed up, I made it inside the courtroom, not cutting any goddamn body, showing up where I needed to show up, making sure that I was there, and luckily made it into the building. So luck is always on my side. So thank you, Cody, for wishing good luck, because you know, it's yeah, like favor ain't fair. So I mean, thank you. Anyways, off of that, let's see. There was so much to go over. Let's revisit Eddie's testimony, because I just find it crazy how a jury can look at Eddie lie, right? He downplayed his relationship with Karmelo Anthony. He acted like he didn't really know him like that. He was talking about how, oh, like, well, I knew him maybe 2 to 3 times. I didn't really know him like that. Like, we weren't really cool like that. But then when it was time for the defense to show the relationship that they had, there's family photos, and almost like a lot of them were happening at Eddie's house. The fact that a jury can look at this and not put themselves in his shoes says a lot. But as I've been reporting to you guys, I told you, I said, when y'all asked me, what do I think about the jury? I said, listen, that's not a jury that I would ever want to judge my life. You have every single racial makeup, even though it's not technically all white, you have the makeup of a jury that does not like black people.
Yep.
Period. So you have that. And then I told you guys, when you guys are asking me about what I thought about the jury, I said, listen, there's some white boys who, I was like, remember when I was telling you, I said, there's some white boys who, they don't look related to Karmelo. I mean, not Karmelo. They don't look related to Austin, but they look like they can be like family, or they look like they can relate to him. And you guys corrected me, and you were like, oh, the word that you're looking for is peers. Like, they look like they can be his peers. And I was telling you guys, like, yeah, they look like they could be like running in the same path. And you can see that this was more based on emotion rather than the facts of the case. Because if you listen to the facts of the case, there's no way that you can get murder, the first degree murder, off of the facts.
Yeah.
If you listen to the pure facts of the case, you get at the minimum
Manslaughter.
Now, I figured that it was a high possibility that it was going to be manslaughter, because the defense did not do a good job of bringing the witness back to. No, this was self-defense. Like, every single witness, the prosecution ended on, who provoked it? Karmelo. Is it self-defense? No. Was he wrong for bringing a knife? Yes. And the defense didn't have their counter questions so that they can be like, well, isn't there a difference between an authority figure like a coach telling you to leave and a student that's your peer telling you to leave? Because the witness that they had yesterday, they were like, well, when you guys went into the dugout and a coach came in there and told you guys to leave, you left, right? At that moment, I figured that the attorney would say, well, isn't there a difference between a teacher or authoritative figure telling you to leave versus a damn kid that has no right? But
yeah, I mean, one thing that actually made me think of one thing that the state was arguing. They said that well, you know, the coach was 20 feet away. Or something about 20 feet away, and he's like, he's 20 feet away. Why did you go get the coach? Why did you go get the coach? And situations don't always happen like that where you go get the coach, especially when you're that young. Sometimes the best thing that you can do is defend yourself. The thing that he kept on repeating is that you don't follow up a shove with a stab. And it's like, in my opinion, it's like, says who? Because if someone can hit you,
says who?
Can kill you.
How many times have we heard of these fights at school with kids where all you gotta do is fall back and hit your head? Also, I would have liked his defense, to introduce some of that evidence of bringing somebody that, like, what was the relative time, right? I need to look up, because there was a couple of cases, I forget, but there was a girl in I forget her name, but she was at school. They had a fight in the bathroom. She hit her head and she died. Then there was another situation at a school where it wasn't too long ago where they were fighting. I don't know if it was like at a bus stop. The girl hit her head and she died. There are several times of situations where it's not even a weapon and the kid dies. So I want to know, like, was there an incident close in time that could have explained why he had the knife or why he had fear? Because you can't just wait for somebody to get the drop on you. And he's on the bleachers. If he huddles him like a football player, hits his head on it, like anything.
Yeah.
And the defense.
And that's why they kept on harping on something that I mentioned in the video, which was touch me and find out. Because he kept trying to spin it like a threat. It was a threat. And then of course the defense was saying this is a clear warning. He was threatened and then he won. Mm-hmm. He felt threatened and then he won. So, another thing that I noticed that the state was didn't want to let go of, it was this idea of like oversimplification of it. Like, this is simple. This is murder. This is murder. This is murder. Kept on using the word murder. Murder. Yeah. This is a murder trial. This is what we're trying to figure out here. But the oversimplification of it, I think it made it easy for a jury that was already against Karmelo and a judge that was already against Karmelo. The oversimplification for them to just go from point A to point B.
Yeah, and I know that you're not supposed to be coaching your witnesses or whatever, but one of the witnesses that the defense put on, the prosecution had extensive conversations with him to where he talked to the prosecution, but he made it clear that the defense had only talked to him for 2 minutes prior. And I was like, what? What do you mean you only talked to him for 2 minutes, but he had an extensive conversation with the prosecution?
Yeah.
And every single defense witness, even the coach, even his teammates, even everybody, they were like, at the end of the day, he should never had a weapon, right? Correct. At the end of the day, he should have never, he wasn't, this wasn't self-defense, or he should have just listened, or at the end of the day, if they told him to leave, like, he was like, one boy was trying to establish that him and Karmelo Anthony had been under the memorial 10 days prior, right? And that came out in the testimony, and the prosecution at the end, where he was like doing his same, how he leaves off every witness, he said, but if somebody told you that to leave, you would leave, right? Correct. And it's like, I know that you can't tell them what to say, but if somebody tells me to leave, it depends on who's telling me.
Absolutely. And this is an issue, is that I've noticed that
35 years.
I don't want to make it.
Hold on 1 second. Ooh. Did it come in? Hold on.
What's it quiet? Okay, she's looking for something.
I don't see any sentences online right now.
Everybody's saying 35 years, though.
Yeah. I was in a text, Nick and Nick, but you're here.
Let me see if she would. Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Found guilty, sentenced to 35 years.
Hold on, y'all. Let me put it on the screen.
35.
All right, so this is Fox 4 KDFW. It says Karmelo Anthony found guilty, sentenced to 35 years in prison. Okay, it says jurors have found Karmelo Anthony guilty of murder for the stabbing of 17-year-old Austin Metcalf at a 2025 track meet. Prosecutors labeled the fatal stadium stabbing a provoked, unjustified sneak attack inside a team tent While the defense countered that it was a split-second action in self-defense out of fear and chaos, Anthony was sentenced to 35 years in prison. He faced anywhere from 5 to 99 years in prison. The 19-year-old was convicted of murder April 2nd, which is today, for the death of bully Austin Metcalf, who was 17 at the time. And this came out of the Collin County courthouse, where the jury was sequestered once they start deliberating. And that's crazy. So it just came in at 7:30 p.m. right now. For me, it's 7:35 p.m. But the sentence was just announced at 7:30 p.m. The jury sentenced him to 35 years, and he will be eligible for parole after half of that time is served.
I love that you mentioned bully when you said Austin Metcalf. Because I think a big part of it is that, sometimes they feel certain people who mess with people like Karmelo, based on just being black, they feel like they have this sense of authority over us. Like, who made you the authority to tell us to leave the tent? Who made you the authority? Why do you feel like you have to? Do you think you still own us? What's going on? And I think now that he's seeing this, they obviously try to make an example out of him for sure.
I mean, well, the prosecution said make an example. Like that was one of his words in the opening statements. Matter of fact, let me pull up my notepad of opening statement.
So they're not even hiding it.
No.
They're not even hiding it.
Hell, they ain't even hiding that shit.
I got notepads for days, you guys.
Up for parole is 17 years. It says.
Okay, so let's go over the opening statements. So when I got in, I was looking at the jury. They said that there was going to be 20 minutes for each side for opening. The jury raised their hand. They were sworn in. And at first I put 3 Asian, 2 Indian / like Middle Eastern, but it was actually 3 and 3. Because one was a man that was kind of like Indian, Middle Eastern or whatever. Yeah. So then they started out by reading the indictment, and then they asked Karmelo how does he plead, guilty, not guilty, and then Karmelo said he pled not guilty, and then I'm going to just read through some of what Bill Werski said in his opening statements, and he basically said that he wanted him to basically make an example out of him. He said, when he was ending in the final words, he said, "You will hear a telltale lie. He lies to Cortez and says, I told him not to touch me. That's a lie. That tells you everything you need to know about his mindset. He tossed the knife immediately after, tried to slip away from the scene. That lie is important. You will start to hear from the witnesses and see the video. This is murder and not self-defense. You can't provoke someone, then take their life. This case is murder, plain and simple. And I expect you to follow the oath and the evidence and find this man guilty." Let me bring it back some, because he definitely said something about like making an example. Let me just bring it back to the top so I don't skip through it. But he said, after Karmelo Anthony pled guilty, he says, "We're all here this morning, Wednesday, April 2nd, and basically Karmelo decided to take a knife to attract me and provoke a young man into touching him. He took a knife into his chest, and Austin died because this man did an unjustified, unprovoked murder. This case has nothing to do with race. This case has nothing to do with self-defense. He launched a sneak surprise attack into Austin after goading him into a fight." Or he said something like that. And then he said, "The facts of the case are simple. Murder was simply senseless. You are going to hear more. You are going to see the surveillance video. That video shows the story. After he slipped into the tent, he wouldn't leave. Austin put hands on Melo after he provoked him. He hit him with a knife. This was a provoked, unjustified murder. This is senseless. Let me reset. That morning, Frisco ISD, the track meet, was set to begin. Austin was with Centennial, the school for Karmelo. The coach sent a text to Austin that he needed them to step up and help that morning. The rain began to fall. Some teams went to the buses. Some were on the field. Some with their teams in the tents. 6 minutes, the murder, 6 minutes. Okay, so basically they were like, all of this happened from the time that Karmelo seen the twins and was under the tent to the time that the murder happened in the matter of 6 minutes. From the time of Karmelo seeing the twins until him being arrested in cuffs was 15 minutes, but that came later in testimony. But anyways, he said that all of this happened in a matter of 6 minutes. 6 minutes before the murder, Austin and his brother entered the tent. You will see normal activity in the tent. 2 minutes after Austin enters, Karmelo is visible. He makes a beeline into the memorial tent. You will see more normal activity in the tent. The other kid asked, why was he there? And they wanted to know why or how they treat the tent culture. And he said they treat the tent like a locker room. They want to be able to protect their valuables from theft. And Austin was stepping up and he told him to leave. And after several told him to leave, Austin took the bait. After he goaded him into hitting him, he refused to leave and took his knife and plunged it into Austin. He then runs and tries to blend in and slips out the gate. The kids, once they realized the stabbing, they ran. Once Austin realized he was stabbed, he lifts up his shirt and shows he had been stabbed in the heart. The kids pointed Karmelo out. Right as he tried to leave, he told them, he touched me first, as if that justified the murder he just committed. Officer Cortez heard the call of the stabbing. He runs, he hears the kids, and he activates his body cam, and police detain they detain Karmelo. You will see body cam. Cortez puts him in custody. Karmelo says, I'm not the alleged suspect, I did it. You will hear him say, he touched me first. You will hear a telltale, that's not saying he will hear a telltale lie. And then he was saying how it was senseless. Maybe it came later in the testimony, but he definitely told them to send a message. I probably didn't grab it, but I remember.
You know, one thing today that the state actually said that to try to justify, they said that Karmelo said he touched me. All right, or he said if he was getting jumped, wouldn't they have said they touched me? Wouldn't Karmelo have said they touched me if he was getting jumped? But
they know that the jury is on social media, so there's this guy going viral saying that 4 kids jumped him.
Yeah, exactly.
So he's responding to social media.
So you know, he was trying to like put it like, you know, make it seem like it was just a targeted thing, and then but at the same time, even if they did surround him, even if they did. It was Austin that he had stabbed. It was one person. So yes, he touched me would be the proper way to go about that.
And it was one person that put their hands on.
And it was one person in the first place. But yeah, I do love what you said about him saying that there's this idea of, okay, we need to make an example, because this is the same thing on the video I had showed you earlier of homie saying, yeah, let's lynch him outside. It's the same thing. Let's hang him from a tree. Let's make an example of him so that everybody who sees now knows that you can't approach us in this way. You can't defend yourself if we're the aggressors. You can't do this. So, you know, this has always been the agenda, to scare us in any way possible.
Yeah, and the video that he's talking about, I'm gonna show it to you right now. This is what he's talking about when
Trigger warning.
Let me show you guys.
This is their version of making an example out of someone.
Karmelo Anthony should be swinging from the tree outside this courthouse. Karmelo Anthony should be hanging from the tree.
He wants to reestablish race relations in this country so that we can get along.
Tensions were high today for the Karmelo Anthony case, who was on trial for the alleged unaliving of Austin Metcalf.
We love our value. That is our protection too.
So, excuse me if I use colorful language like Karmelo Anthony is swinging from a tree. Our people are being hunted by your people.
It's the other way around because for years and centuries, white people have killed black people. You deny that? Like that hung black people. Like have enslaved black people, have incarcerated black people.
I think it's victim culture. I think it's victim culture, and there's too much. You crack ass motherfucker, you barely made it. You got one foot in the grave and one on a banana peel. I'm gonna push you if I get close enough.
Many supporters from each side showed up and gave their side of the story, including Next Gen.
Put out how Karmelo feels. It feels like any 8, 19-year-old child.
That's one of our sons.
Yeah, that's one.
I just come here to support one of my family friends. You know, I think it's messed up what they did. I'm not saying anything racially, but I'm protesting that somebody that did a crime should be in prison for that crime.
Because if the shoe was on the other foot, they wouldn't give it to you. Let's say the community.
I just want to make sure that I capture, like, in my mind, like, everything, how it happens.
I'm Native American. I believe in Christian values. I'm here to stand for these people over on this side. They're animals. They're heathens. They're fucking, they shouldn't be allowed in this country anymore. They are agreeing that an innocent person should be murdered and the guy should get away. I don't agree with that.
Yeah, it was pretty wild, but I put some details below about the case. Let me know your thoughts on this.
Karmelo Anthony should be swinging from a tree outside this courthouse.
All right,
This
so that's the
racist
video that he was
bastard.
talking about where he said that
This example, this idea of making an example out of black people in any way they can to intimidate us, so that we don't tell them F around and find out.
Thank you so much for this super chat. I appreciate you so much. You said, Neek, you are appreciated in I/we. Thank you kindly for being present in the moment. Continue safety around you. The Most High sees all, and vengeance is of the Lord. In or out the flesh, always spirit Christ. I don't know if there was more after that, but thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. I want to also thank everybody who has sent in super chats. This has not been like any case that I've ever covered. And I want to take a moment to address some things that I saw, and we're going to get back to the commentary about like how we feel. I'll even open up the lines for you guys to call in and give your thoughts and opinions. Thank you so much to Nikki for the donation as well. Karmelo's fundraiser is still active and is currently receiving donations. Yes, if they have a fundraiser active, donate to them, help them with this appeals process. I think that maybe, like, was the lawyer going for ineffective counsel? I don't know, but the lawyering was so bad. I don't know what, but what I want to say is this has been like no other trial that I've covered. And I didn't even do like a mic check to see if the sound is good, but you guys have not complained about the sound, so I assume the sound has been good and it's picking up, or I don't know, because I'm like, should I bring the mic closer to us, or is the sound perfect? But anyways, anytime that I come to cover any case, normally I'm used to maybe a peer, like maybe another social media reporter try to compete, and we have like this, like, not like this like rivalry for real, but like it's like a competition where they throwing shade, or you might not be on the same page. I'm used to stuff like that. I don't care about stuff like that because I'm not in competition with anybody. I know what's for me is for me. And so, but I understand those sentiments. Like, people, they get mad at your coverage if your coverage is doing good, and you start getting little energies like that. But nothing of this magnitude have I ever experienced covering a case. I seen when It's On Site had reposted the video where I was crying, and it was so disappointing to see a lot of people in our community tell me that I don't need to be human in the moment, and I don't need to express my frustration because they're watching. I think that in situations like this, it is important to document and show what they're doing so that everybody can see what's happening. I am a California resident. I'm not from a red state. I'm from where it's kind of liberal. I know that racism happens, and I know that there are police officers that have killed black people and gotten off, etc. But I know that, like, I don't really like trust police, but I've kind of been like, well, if I ever have an issue, I can count on the police. You get what I'm saying? You guys don't understand what message has been sent throughout this entire thing. And I'm gonna just briefly talk to y'all about how it's been for me, because in the moment when I broke down, it wasn't because she's showing like she. No, it was just I came out being disappointed in like the process, and I'm like, what is like in my mind? What is happening with this lawyer? What I'm like, oh my God, like this is not, it's not going well.
Yeah.
It's not like the things that should have been like happening as far as like discrediting witnesses or making certain points. None of those had happened at that point. So there's that. Then you have the sheriffs of this court. Then you have the court. Then you have everything like that. I document it, right? Like normally if I have a problem, I go to the police like, hey, I got a problem. And they kind of are the neutral party, right? They make sure that peace is amongst the group. I bigged up the sheriffs in the beginning, and I talked to y'all about how nice they were. I was like, oh my God, everybody's so nice, everybody's so sweet. And it was so many comments of y'all that said, Neek, don't be fooled, watch your back.
Yep.
They smile in your face, but they racist. I'm like, but they're nice. What do you mean?
Can't trust them.
Like, I'm like, what are you guys talking about? I was like, these.
And Neek, I hate to say this, Neek, but you kind of did play yourself on that one, baby girl. You in Texas. Don't you trust them white folks?
People are so nice. Like, I was like, normally whenever I go to a trial, it's unnecessarily like flexing, like, being authoritative, like, and being macho for no reason and mishandling people just because. But I was like, I don't feel that. Well, as the trial went on, that changed. So I'm going to just tell y'all something real quick. And I know y'all say I ramble, I don't get straight to the point, but I feel like every detail is important. So Friday, June 5th, I arrive at the courthouse. I am one of the people that get into the room. And Sarah, or whoever this bimbo is, she starts, trying to get her audience to, target anybody who has amazing coverage, as hers is dry. It's not, like, the only reason they listen to her because they're racist and she has racist views, not because the commentary is good, the delivery is good, or that she's a good, like, person to tell, like, the facts. She can't even tell two black people apart. So anyways, but outside of that, basically what happened was I go to the courthouse to cover the trial like I've covered any other trial that I've covered. And I come out, and as I'm walking to my car, I see one of her goons recording me get in my car. And I see him recording me, and a lot of her followers, because they hate black people, they don't critically think, and because they don't use common sense, I'm coming out of a courthouse where phones are not allowed. Because a lot of them were like, well, if he was recording you when you got in your car, where's the video? The video is the courthouse surveillance. And hopefully you guys can petition the Public Information Office for that. And hopefully a lot of you guys put in something in writing to the Texas Public Records Office for that footage. I'm gonna do my part. Hopefully you guys can do your part. June 5th, around 11 to 11:30 a.m. I go outside.
I want to go ahead and cut this off right here. Hopefully something will change, but then again, most likely it probably won't change. Um, I'm done. Which I know I'm done, but unfortunately, some of these other folks may not be done. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm done with it. Peace. Enjoy the rest of your day.